The lawyer slid a brass key across the table and said, "The house on Willow Street goes to Mara Vance." For a second, nobody moved. Mara stared at the key. It was tied to a faded wooden tag with 114 painted on it in crooked black numbers. She knew the address. Everyone in the family knew it. Great Aunt Ruth's boarded house stood at the dead end of Willow Street, like a bad tooth no one had pulled. Uncle Cal gave one sharp laugh, not a chuckle, a bark. "Oh, Ruth," he said. Mara's mother leaned forward. "The whole house?" "As described in the will," the lawyer said. "The residence, land, fixtures, and remaining contents." Cal leaned back in his chair and looked at Mara with open pity. 20 minutes earlier, he had inherited Ruth's Buick. Mara's mother had received the savings account. Cousin Lydia had gotten the jewelry. Mara, who had slept in her car for the last 19 nights, had inherited a house no one could live in. Her mother touched her arm. "Don't get excited yet." Mara wasn't excited. She was trying to understand why a woman who had not sent her a birthday card in 11 years had left her the only thing she had refused to give anyone else. The lawyer, Martin Keene, was a narrow man with polished fingernails and a voice that made every sentence sound as if it had been notarized. He pushed a second paper toward her. "There are outstanding property taxes," he said. "There may also be municipal compliance issues. I strongly recommend you have the property inspected before entering." "How outstanding?" Cal asked. Martin looked at Mara. She swallowed. "You can tell him. 3,800 and change." Cal whistled. Denise's hand tightened around Mara's forearm. "Honey?" That word had been scarce lately. Mara pulled her arm free and picked up the key. The wood tag was warm from the lawyer's hand. Across the table, Cousin Lydia opened the little velvet case that held Ruth's jewelry. Her mouth changed when she saw what was inside. A string of fake pearls, 3 silver rings, a watch with a cracked face, and 6 pairs of clip-on earrings in colors no flower had ever been. "Are these all of them?" Lydia asked. Martin consulted his notes. "Those were the items in the safe deposit box. I thought she had Grandma Vance's emerald brooch." She did," Cal said. "Green glass. Turned your neck black." Lydia snapped the box shut. Cal had already begun smiling again. He had Ruth's Buick keys on the table in front of him. One finger looped through the ring. The car was only 3 years old. Ruth had bought it shortly before her fall, then driven it so little that it still smelled new. Cal kept tapping the key fob with his thumb, making the red panic button appear and disappear. Mara looked down at her own key. No plastic buttons, no shine. One tooth had been filed so thin it looked ready to break. Martin cleared his throat. "Miss Vance, I'll need your signature acknowledging receipt." "She's 18, Denise said. Martin waited. "I mean, she just turned 18. I'm aware. She doesn't know anything about property. Most people don't until they have some." Cal laughed again, quieter this time. Mara almost liked Martin for that answer, until he handed her a pen chained to a black marble base. The chain was 6 inches too short. She had to drag the base closer while everyone watched. Her signature looked childish. The M was too large, the V slanted backward, and her hand shook enough to turn the final E into a loop. Martin blotted it with a square of paper and began arranging the documents into separate folders. That was it. Ruth's life had been divided. Savings to Denise, car and storage unit to Cal, jewelry to Lydia, ruin to Mara. Outside, the late July heat struck them all at once. The law office sat in a strip mall between a tax preparer and a nail salon, and the parking lot smelled like hot asphalt and somebody's fast food. Cal clicked Ruth's key fob. A black Buick chirped 2 rows away. "Well," he said, "at least she kept up the maintenance on one thing." "Cal," Denise said, though not with enough force to make him regret it. "What? I'm saying Ruth had priorities." Lydia walked off without saying goodbye, the velvet box tucked under her arm. Cal paused beside Mara's Honda. Its hood was faded to the color of old ketchup, and the back passenger window was covered with a black trash bag because the glass had stopped going up 3 months ago. He peered through the windshield. Mara stepped between him and the car. Cal glanced at her, then at the rolled blanket on the back seat. "You living in there?" The question came out softly, which made it worse. "I work nights. That's not what I asked." Denise moved quickly. "Her apartment situation is temporary." Mara looked at her mother. "I don't have an apartment situation." Denise's face stiffened. She wore a white blouse with tiny pearl buttons and tan pants that never wrinkled. Her hair was curled under at the ends. She looked like she had come to the law office to refinance something, not bury the last adult in the family who remembered her childhood. Cal's gaze shifted from Denise to Mara. He seemed to make a decision. "Give me the house," he said. Mara blinked. "What?" "The lot's worth something. Not much with the structure on it, but something. I know a contractor who can clear it." "Cal, not here," Denise murmured. "Why not here? She needs help now, not 6 months from now when the city puts a lien on it." Mara closed her fingers around the key. Cal noticed. "I'd take care of the taxes. I'd handle the demolition. You wouldn't owe anything. And what would I get? A problem off your back. So you'd get the property. I'd get the risk." He said it with such confidence that, for half a second, Mara wondered if she was being ungrateful. Then Denise spoke. "It might be the smartest thing, honey." There was that word again. Mara looked at her mother's clean blouse, then at the Honda. 3 weeks earlier, Denise had stood in the doorway of Greg's condo with Mara's 2 trash bags at her feet. She had called it a transition. Greg's place was small, she had said. Greg needed privacy. Mara was legally an adult. There had been reasons stacked neatly on top of reasons until there was no room left for Mara. Now Denise took a careful step closer. "You can't pay almost $4,000 in taxes. The roof has holes in it. Cal says the city's been after Ruth for years." "Then why didn't Ruth leave it to Cal?" Cal's mouth tightened. Denise looked toward the Buick, as if the answer might be parked there. "Your aunt was complicated. She didn't even like me." "No," Denise said too quickly. "That isn't true." Mara waited. Denise pressed her lips together. Cal jingled his keys. "Ruth didn't like anybody. That's how she ended up alone in a nursing home, protecting a rotten house from people trying to help her." The grocery store logo on Mara's work shirt had begun sticking to her skin. She was due for a shift in less than an hour, and she still had to coax the Honda across town without letting it idle too long at any light. "How long do I have to decide?" she asked. Cal shrugged. "Sooner is better." "Then I haven't decided." He let out a breath through his nose. "Fine, go look at it. Just don't go inside. The porch is bad." Mara opened her car door. Denise caught it before she could close it. "You're coming to dinner tonight." It was not phrased as a question. "I'm working." "Tomorrow then." Greg bought steaks. "I'm working tomorrow too." "You don't work all day." Mara sat behind the wheel. Heat had turned the vinyl seat soft beneath her. "No, just most of the night." Denise lowered her voice. "I know you're angry." A laugh climbed into Mara's throat, but it hurt too much to let out. She put the key into the ignition. "Mara, I'm going to be late. Where are you staying?" "Apparently I have a house." The engine clicked twice before turning over. Denise stepped back, one hand still lifted as Mara pulled away. At the first traffic light, the temperature gauge rose. At the second, the air coming through the vents turned hot. Mara switched the fan off and drove with the windows down, one hand holding the loose trash bag against the rear door whenever a truck passed. She had never been inside Ruth's house. Her last clear memory of her great-aunt came from a family picnic when Mara was 7. Ruth had worn men's work boots with a flowered dress and slapped Cal's hand when he tried to take the crispy skin off the chicken before anyone else had eaten. Later, she had shown Mara how to whistle with a blade of grass. Denise had seen them together and called Mara away. That was the whole memory. Ruth's square hands, the taste of lemonade from a paper cup, a thin green whistle that had worked once and never again. At work, Mara stocked cereal while 2 supervisors argued about an end cap display. She placed boxes in straight rows and thought about the wooden key tag in her pocket. At midnight, she ate a bruised banana in the break room. At 2, the automatic floor cleaner chased her out of aisle 9. At 4:30, her manager, Sandoval, found her sitting on an upside-down milk crate in the loading area with her eyes closed. "You sleeping?" he asked. "No." "Good, because sleeping is for cashiers." She opened one eye. Sandoval handed her a paper cup of coffee. He was 40, maybe 45, with a mustache so precise it seemed to have its own work schedule. "You look terrible," he said. "Thank you. You need a day off?" "No." "Everybody needs a day off. I need the money more." He considered her, then nodded once. "There are damaged granola bars by the baler. Corporate policy says I did not tell you that." The granola bars had been crushed inside their wrappers, but they tasted fine. Mara put 3 in her bag and ate one in the car as dawn lightened the sky. She normally parked behind the grocery store after her shift. The security camera reached the far row, and the bakery crew arrived early enough that the lot never felt completely deserted. That morning, though, she drove to Willow Street. The neighborhood changed within 3 blocks. Vinyl-sided duplexes gave way to tall brick houses with trimmed hedges and porch swings. A woman in running clothes stared as Mara's Honda rattled past. Construction dumpsters occupied 2 driveways. One old house had become something gray and enormous, with black-framed windows and a wooden sign advertising luxury townhomes from the low 600s. Ruth's house stood at the end of the street behind waist-high grass. It was bigger than Mara remembered. 2 full stories, once painted pale yellow, with a deep porch running across the front. Plywood covered every downstairs window. The upper windows were unbroken but cloudy. Part of the gutter hung loose like a bent arm. A red municipal notice had been stapled beside the front door. Mara parked at the curb and sat with both hands on the wheel. The place looked less like a home than a home someone had tried to erase. She almost left. Cal was right about one thing. The house was not a gift a tired person could simply unwrap. Even from the street she could see the porch listing toward the left. Roof shingles curled like dried leaves, vines threading through the railing. Then she noticed the hydrangeas. They grew in a huge blue mass beside the steps, blooming wildly despite the weeds. Someone had cut away the dead heads. The clippings lay in a small brown pile underneath. Mara got out. Morning heat was already gathering between the houses. She pushed through the gate and climbed the porch carefully, keeping close to the wall where the boards felt firmer. The key did not fit the front door. "Of course," she muttered. She tried again, lifting the handle. Nothing. Around the side, beneath a warped metal awning, she found another door almost hidden by ivy. The key went in but refused to turn until she leaned her shoulder against the wood. The lock gave with a heavy clunk. Cool, damp air touched her face. The kitchen beyond was dim, its windows boarded from outside. A strip of sunlight came through a crack in the plywood and fell across yellow linoleum. There was dust on the counters and a brown water stain spreading across the ceiling, but the floor had been swept. Mara stood very still. On the counter beside the sink sat a clean white coffee mug, upside down on a folded dish towel. Something moved in the room behind her. Mara grabbed the tire iron from her bag and spun around. A man's voice came out of the dark hallway. "If you swing that," he said, "try not to hit the wall. The wall's got enough problems." The man stepped into the strip of sunlight with both hands raised. He was broad through the shoulders, but carried himself carefully, as if one of his knees had disappointed him before. Gray threaded a beard that looked trimmed with kitchen scissors. He wore paint-stiff work pants, a faded blue shirt, and a tool belt with nothing in it but a pencil and a screwdriver. Mara kept the tire iron raised. "You broke into my house." He looked at the open door behind her. "Used a key. So did I. Good for both of us. Who are you?" "Eli Mercer." That meant nothing to her. He nodded toward the tire iron. "You planning to introduce yourself, or should I guess?" "Mara Vance." The humor left his face. He looked at her more closely, not in the way Cal had inspected the blanket in her car. His attention stopped at her eyes, then moved to the wooden tag hanging from the key still in the door. "Denise's Mara? I'm just Mara. Fair enough. You knew my mother? Long time ago. Everybody seemed to know Denise a long time ago. Nobody ever offered a useful version of her from last Tuesday." Eli lowered his hands. Mara did not lower the iron. "What are you doing here?" "Checking the place." "For what? Leaks, animals, people who come in with tire irons. You're the one standing in the dark." The flashlight batteries died. He took a small flashlight from his belt and slapped it against his palm. It produced a weak orange glow, flickered twice, then quit. Mara looked at the clean mug. "You made coffee?" "I brought coffee. Water's shut off." "You slept here?" "No." "You live here?" "Not anymore." The last word changed the room. Mara loosened her grip slightly. "Any more when?" "Off and on from 2009 to 2016. Then again for 6 months in 2019. "Ruth rented to you?" "Yes." "She didn't tell anyone." "She didn't tell me much about you either. That landed harder than it should have." Mara lowered the tire iron but kept it in her hand. Eli glanced at it. "Progress. She died. I know. At Bellwether Nursing. I know that too." "You visited her?" His eyes moved to the sink. Every Thursday until she stopped recognizing what day Thursday was. Mara had seen Ruth twice during that final year. The first time, Ruth had been asleep. The second, Denise had stood at the foot of the bed for 7 minutes before saying they should go. Mara had assumed no one else came. Eli took the folded towel from beneath the mug and wiped a ring of moisture from the counter. "I didn't know somebody would be here this morning," he said. "Her attorney called yesterday, told me to return my key." "He called you?" "Ruth left instructions." "Did she leave everybody instructions except me?" Eli met her eyes. "Seems like she left you the big one." She hated that answer because it sounded meaningful without telling her anything. "The house is mine," she said. "I figured, my uncle says it should be torn down. Your uncle has been saying that since before the house needed tearing down." "You know Cal too?" "I've had the experience." Eli took a few steps toward the back door. Mara shifted to block it. "You can't just leave. I thought that was what you wanted." "I want to know why you have a key." "I told you. You said Ruth left instructions." "What instructions?" "To check the place once a week, run off anybody who got in, keep the yard from swallowing the porch, make sure the roof tarp stayed put." Mara glanced up at the stained ceiling. "How's that going?" "Poorly." Despite herself, her mouth almost moved. Eli noticed and had the good sense not to smile. He pulled the screwdriver from his belt, walked to the old gas stove, and used the handle to knock twice against the wall beside it. The plaster sounded solid. A third spot gave a dull, hollow thud. "Water came in during the June storm," he said. "Tarp tore loose on the north side. I patched what I could, but the roof deck's soft. Don't stand under that stain during rain. I wasn't planning to. Don't stand in the dining room at all. Why?" "Floor joist cracked." "How do you know?" "My leg went through." He lifted his pant cuff. A pale scar crossed his shin above one worn boot. Mara looked toward the dark hallway. "Is any of it safe?" "That depends on what you mean by safe. Could somebody stay here?" "No." He answered too fast. Mara set the tire iron on the counter. "Show me." "No, it's my house." "That doesn't make rotten wood stronger. Then show me where not to step." Eli studied her work shirt, the canvas bag over her shoulder, and the faint red marks the vinyl car seat had left on the backs of her bare legs. She wanted him to see an owner. She had the uncomfortable sense that he saw much more than that. "Stay behind me," he said. He took a second flashlight from a drawer. This one worked. The hallway smelled of wet plaster and old wood. Eli pointed to a dark rectangle in the floor ahead of them. Previous leg location. A piece of plywood covered the hole. Someone had written "No" in thick black marker across it. The dining room beyond held a long table draped in a sheet. Water spots bloomed across the fabric. 6 chairs stood upside down on top, as if the room had closed for the night and never reopened. "Ruth left all this?" Mara asked. "Couldn't take a 12-foot table to Bellwether. Cal said the house was empty. Cal sees what he wants." Eli shone the light over a built-in cabinet. Its glass doors were cloudy but unbroken. Inside sat stacks of mismatched dishes. He wanted to buy it? He wanted her to sell it. To him? To anybody by the end. He got tired of hearing her say no. Why wouldn't she? Eli moved the beam to the floor. "Ask her." Mara stopped walking. He let out a quiet breath. "Sorry." "No, you're not." "I am. I'm also not going to tell you what Ruth thought as if she was simple enough to fit in my mouth." His bluntness should have angered her. Instead, it made him sound like the first person who had known Ruth as more than a difficult relative. They passed a parlor with a fireplace blocked by a panel of sheet metal. The walls were painted green above white wooden molding, though whole sections had blistered from damp. On the mantel sat an empty glass vase and a photograph face down in dust. Mara reached for it. "Don't," Eli said. Her hand froze. He pointed above her. A section of ceiling bowed like a belly. She stepped back. At the front stairway, the morning light coming around the upstairs window turned the dust gold. 3 steps from the bottom, a blue glass marble rested against the baseboard. Mara picked it up. "You can touch that," Eli said. "Thank you." "Welcome." The stairs groaned beneath them. Eli tested each tread before letting her follow. Ruth kept tenants up here, 5 bedrooms, sometimes 6, depending on whether she was mad enough to call the back sewing room a bedroom. "What did you pay?" "Started at $85 a week. That's nothing. It wasn't nothing to me then." At the top, the heat thickened. A long hallway ran toward the back of the house. All the doors stood open except one painted dark blue. Eli pointed into the nearest room. Part of the ceiling had collapsed onto a narrow iron bed. Gray insulation lay across the mattress like dirty snow. Storm damage, he said. Next room's worse. The blue door was locked. What's in there? Ruth's things. Mara tried the brass key. It did not fit. You have that one too? She asked. No. Who does? She did. Where is it? If I knew, I'd have given it to Martin Keene. Mara crouched and looked through the old-fashioned keyhole. Darkness. Cal will break the door, Eli said. He's not coming in. He will if you give him the house. I didn't say I would. You didn't say you wouldn't. Mara stood. You heard him ask? I've heard Cal ask for the last 10 years. They continued toward the back. The smallest room had pale wallpaper printed with tiny yellow flowers. A brown stain marked one corner, but the ceiling was intact, and the floor felt firm beneath her shoes. Eli nudged the baseboard with his boot. This one stayed mostly dry. Mostly? Window leaks if rain comes from the east. There was no bed, only a wooden dresser missing one drawer. A closet door hung open. Someone had left 4 wire hangers on the rod. Mara went to the window and looked through the dusty glass. From there she could see the back garden, a square of waist-high weeds crossed by a narrow mowed path. A rusted clothesline pole leaned near the fence. Beyond it, the neighboring yard was freshly landscaped around a deck with white patio furniture. The room was ugly. It was hot. It smelled like dust and an old paperback book. It had a door. Could this room be made safe? She asked. Eli did not answer. She turned. You said it stayed dry, I said mostly. Could it? With work. What work? Window needs reglazing. Outlet needs testing. Plaster there might be loose. You'd need smoke detectors. There's no running water, no power, and no way I'd sleep in a house with that roof until the north side is braced. How much? How much what? To fix it. He rubbed his beard. To fix the room or the house? The room. That's not how houses work. It's how money works. His eyes narrowed slightly. How much money do you have? That's not your business. You asked me for a number. Mara looked back through the window. $460. Eli was silent. Maybe $500 after Friday. That include food? I get paid Friday. That wasn't what I asked. She almost told him to leave. Then she remembered he still had not surrendered the key. Eli leaned against the doorframe, careful not to touch the loose plaster. You can't stay here. Why do you keep saying that? Because you keep asking questions that sound like you plan to. I own it. You own a roof that could put a rafter through your chest. I've been sleeping in a parking lot. The words came out flat and louder than she intended. Eli stopped rubbing his beard. Downstairs, something ticked inside the walls. The house settled around them with a low wooden groan. How long? He asked. Mara hated the gentleness more than Cal's pity. Not long. How long? 19 nights. Eli looked out the window with her. His jaw shifted once. Your mother know? She knows I don't live with her. That is not the same thing. It is, if you're Denise. He nodded as if that confirmed something he had once suspected and hoped was no longer true. I can brace the roof, he said. Mara turned. Temporary. It won't repair anything. It buys time. How much? Materials, maybe 200 if I can reuse lumber. And your labor? I didn't say I'd do it for you. Her hope embarrassed her by appearing so quickly. Eli pushed away from the frame. There's a place above Platt's laundromat that rents by the week. I know, 220 plus a deposit. You checked. I check everything, except whether a stranger is in the dark before you enter a condemned house. I had a tire iron. That's not checking. He led her downstairs, stepping over the plywood marked No. In the kitchen, he took the key from the door and held it out. Mara opened her palm. He dropped it beside Ruth's key. I'll come tomorrow with a ladder and look at the roof, he said. Looking is not promising. I work tonight. What time are you done? 5? Morning? No, 5 in the afternoon. Yes, morning. I'll be here at 8. He reached the door, then looked at her canvas bag. Coffee's from Dottie's, he said. Still warm. I don't want your coffee. I didn't offer it. It belonged to me 15 minutes ago. Now it's part of the remaining contents. He left before she could answer. Mara listened to his steps cross the porch and fade into the grass. A truck started somewhere beyond the side fence. She turned the mug over. The coffee was black and lukewarm. but she drank it anyway. Then she carried the tire iron to the front window and worked its hooked end beneath the edge of the plywood. The first nail shrieked as it pulled free. Sunlight widened across the floor, bright enough to show every crack and stain. Mara kept prying until the kitchen could see outside again. The board came away all at once and nearly knocked her backward. Mara caught herself against the sink. A small civilization of pillbugs scattered from the exposed sill, offended by daylight. She lowered the plywood to the porch, then stood in the kitchen with the tire iron hanging from one hand. The window glass was filthy but intact. Beyond it, the side yard sloped toward a chain-link fence buried in vines. Someone had cut a narrow path through the grass from the back gate to the kitchen door. Eli's work, probably. Even neglect had required maintenance. She pushed at the window. It did not move. Fine, she told it, one thing at a time. The house answered with a creak from somewhere upstairs. Mara drank the rest of Eli's coffee, swept a dead moth from the folded towel, and opened every kitchen cabinet. Most were empty. One held a jar of hardened sugar, 2 cans of tomato soup that had expired 4 years earlier, and a row of drinking glasses turned upside down on newspaper. In another, she found mouse droppings and closed it quickly. The drawer beside the stove contained rubber bands, birthday candles, a meat thermometer, 3 screwdrivers, and 17 keys. Mara carried the keys upstairs. None opened the blue door. She tried each one twice, first normally, and then while lifting the handle, because old doors could be spiteful. The final key slid halfway in and stuck so firmly that she needed both hands to pull it out. "You can stay mysterious," she whispered. "I have other problems." She left the keys on the floor beneath the knob so she would know which ones she had tried. The gesture made the hallway feel briefly inhabited. In the small back bedroom, she opened the dresser. A single brown button rolled across the bottom of the top drawer. The lower drawer smelled like cedar. She wondered who had lived there last, and whether that person had been relieved or sorry to leave. Mara sat with her back against the wall, meaning only to rest until the heat became unbearable. When she opened her eyes, sunlight was pouring through the window at a different angle, and someone was pounding on the front door. She jerked upright. Her neck had gone stiff. The blue marble rolled from her lap and tapped across the floorboards. "Mara!" Denise called. "I know you're in there." Mara found her phone beneath her thigh. It was 12:43. 7 missed calls glowed on the screen, 5 from Denise and 2 from the grocery store. Her stomach dropped until she remembered she was not scheduled again until 9 that night. She went downstairs, stepping around the plywood marked "No." Denise stood on the porch holding a large iced tea and wearing sunglasses. Cal waited in the grass with a man Mara had never seen before. Both men were looking up at the roof. Mara opened the door 6 inches. "What are you doing here?" Denise demanded. "Sleeping, until somebody started banging." "In there?" Cal turned. He wore khaki shorts and a polo shirt, as if inspecting a golf course. The other man was sunburned across his bald head and held a clipboard. "You went inside?" Cal asked. "I have a key. That doesn't make it safe." Mara glanced at the stranger. "Who's he?" "Denny," Cal said. "The contractor I mentioned." The man raised 2 fingers in greeting. "Ma'am." Mara was not accustomed to being called ma'am. She disliked it immediately. "I didn't ask for a contractor. He was in the neighborhood." Denny looked down the empty street. Cal ignored that. "I thought you'd want real numbers before you made a decision. He's not going inside." "I don't need to go inside to tell you it's bad," Denny said. He sounded almost apologetic. Roof lines sagging, porches pulling away. Might have foundation issues at the northeast corner. Denise removed her sunglasses. "Mara, your face is filthy." Mara wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. It came away gray. "What happened to the window?" Cal asked. I took the board down. "You need to leave those up." "Why?" "Because it keeps people out. It also keeps sunlight out." Cal looked at the open kitchen window as if she had taken a wall down with her bare hands. "Ruth boarded it for a reason." "I thought Ruth was crazy." "I didn't say crazy." "You said complicated," Mara told Denise. He said alone. Denny shifted the clipboard under his arm. He had the trapped expression of a man who charged by the job, but had stumbled into a family argument priced by the hour. Cal lowered his voice. "May I speak to you privately?" "You can speak from the yard. I'm trying to protect you." "From my house?" "From making an emotional decision." Mara opened the door wider. What emotion do you think I have about this place? No one answered. That was the strange part. She had not loved Ruth. She had barely known her. She did not feel sentimental about the damp walls or the collapsing ceilings. Yet Cal's assumption that her refusal had to be irrational made her want to plant both feet on the porch and grow roots through the boards. Denny cleared his throat. I can take the structure down, haul everything, grade the lot. 21,000, assuming there's no asbestos. More if there is. Denise's lips parted. Cal nodded as if the number proved something. That's what you're facing. Mara looked at Denny. How much to fix the roof? He glanced at Cal before answering. Couldn't say without getting up there. Then your number isn't what I'm facing. It's what he asked you to price. Denny rubbed the back of his head. That's fair? Cal's jaw tightened. A fly circled Denise's drink. She moved it away with an irritated flick. Honey, come shower at our place, she said. Get something to eat. We can talk when you're rested. Are you going to ask me to sign it over? Not today. Cal made a sound. Denise looked at him. Not today, Cal. There was enough steel in her voice that he stepped back. Mara almost said no. The refusal rose automatically, sharp and comforting. Then she smelled herself. Her hair felt glued to her scalp, and her last meal had been crushed granola bars. I'll come by at 6, she said. I can drive you. I have a car. Denise looked toward the curb, where the Honda sat with its trash bag window stirring in the breeze. I'll come by at 6, Mara repeated. She shut the door. Their voices continued outside in low bursts. Cal's carried most clearly. Not thinking, then Denise. She's tired. She's exactly like... The rest disappeared as they moved toward the street. Mara waited until the Buick and Denise's silver crossover drove away. Denny's pickup left last. He paused at the stop sign, looked back at the house, and gave her a small shrug through the open window. At 5:30, the Honda would not start. Mara turned the key and got a dry click. She waited, tried again, then opened the hood as if the engine might point politely to the problem. A man across the street was watering a row of hostas. He watched for a minute before calling. Battery? Probably. You need a jump? I have cables. She did not. He brought his own and positioned his pickup nose to nose with the Honda. His name was Frank Alvarez. He had lived across from Ruth for 9 years and had once called the city about the grass. Nothing personal, he said as he attached the clamps. Rats were crossing the street like they paid taxes. Did Ruth yell at you? For the grass complaint? No. She mailed me a packet about native habitats. That sounds worse. Frank laughed. The Honda started after 2 tries. Don't shut it off, he warned. Mara thanked him and drove to Denise's condo with the engine running rough at every light. Greg opened the door before she knocked. He was a large, pink-faced man who sold commercial flooring and spoke to Mara in the patient tone of someone explaining airport security. He wore an apron printed with "Kiss the Cook," though he had never shown any desire to be kissed by anyone while cooking. Hey there, he said. Big day. That's one way to describe it. Your mom's been worried. Denise appeared behind him. You're late. My car wouldn't start. I offered to drive you, and then I'd be stranded here. Greg stepped aside. Bathrooms free. Mara walked past them carrying her canvas bag. The condo smelled like grilled meat and the lemon cleaner Denise used on every hard surface. In the bathroom, 3 decorative towels hung above the toilet. A small card on the sink read, "Please use the hand towels provided." Mara had no idea who the sign was for. She and Denise were the only guests Greg ever had. She locked the door and undressed. Hot water struck her shoulders. Dirt spiraled toward the drain. Mara stayed under the spray until someone tapped twice. Mara, Denise called, save some hot water. The old bedroom Mara had used during the 2 months before Greg asked when she planned to move out was now an office. A wide desk stood where her mattress had been. Greg's printer occupied the shelf that once held her clothes. On the desk lay a white folder. Mara opened it. A yellow sticky note on the first page read, "Sign here," in Cal's blocky handwriting. The document beneath it was not something she understood completely, but she recognized the Willow Street address and the line where her name had been typed. Denise stood in the doorway. I told him not today, she said. You put it on the desk. He left it here, and you left it open. Denise crossed her arms. It's only paperwork to let Cal handle the property. No one is stealing anything from you. Then why didn't anyone explain it before typing my name? I planned to. When? After dinner. When you were calmer. Mara closed the folder. I am calm. You slept in a condemned building. I fell asleep sitting down. That is not better. Greg called from the kitchen that the steaks were resting. Denise's face changed at the sound of his voice. Not softened exactly. Rearranged. Please, she said. Can we have one meal without a fight? Mara looked at the folder between them. You set the table for one. She picked up her bag and left with wet hair. The Honda started, but the headlights dimmed whenever she stopped. She drove to Willow Street instead of work, parked facing downhill in case she needed to roll start the car, and carried her blanket inside. The kitchen floor was the only place she trusted. She pushed the old table against the door, laid the blanket beneath the window, and kept the tire iron beside her head. Darkness changed the house. Pipes knocked, though there was no water. Something scratched in the wall. Every settling board sounded deliberate. Mara lay awake, watching moonlight reach through the window she had uncovered. Near midnight, footsteps crossed the porch. They stopped outside the kitchen. The doorknob turned once, slowly, then stopped against the lock. Mara wrapped her hand around the tire iron and sat up. The knob moved again. She crossed the kitchen without turning on her phone light. Her bare foot landed in something cold and gritty, but she did not look down. She eased the table away from the door, lifted the iron over one shoulder, and unlocked the deadbolt. Then she yanked the door open. Eli stood on the porch, holding a rolled tarp. He looked at the tire iron, then at her blanket on the floor. I see we've developed a theme, he said. Mara lowered the iron. What are you doing here? Storm coming. At midnight? Storm didn't ask me what time worked for you. Wind pushed against the door. The leaves beyond the porch had turned their pale undersides to the sky. You tried to come in. I knocked first. I didn't hear you. You had a table against the door. That's what tables are for. No, generally they're for eating. Thunder rolled somewhere west of the neighborhood, low enough that the glass in the kitchen window trembled. Eli looked past her at the blanket. You moved in. I brought one thing. You brought the thing you sleep under. I'm not discussing my blanket. Fine. We'll discuss the tarp. He held it up. One edge had been patched with silver tape. I can't put this on the roof in lightning. There's a low section behind the upstairs north window where I can secure it from inside, but you need to move anything you care about out of that room. I don't have anything in that room. That does simplify your life. Do you always insult people when you're helping them? Only when they make the helping difficult. He waited. Mara stepped aside. Eli entered, closed the door, and looked down at the cold coffee mug she had set beneath the small drip from the ceiling stain. Roof's already leaking, one drop every 30 seconds. 22. You counted? I couldn't sleep. His eyes went to the blanket again. Don't. He raised one hand, discussing the tarp. Upstairs, the house groaned under the first hard gust. Eli gave Mara a canvas pouch of nails and kept the folded tarp under one arm. They passed the blue door, its circle of rejected keys still spread across the floor. You tried the junk drawer, he said. I tried every key. Ruth never kept an important key where a sane person would look. She wasn't sane. She was organized according to a private religion. Rain began as they entered the damaged bedroom. It struck the roof in scattered taps, then gathered into a steady roar. Eli set his flashlight on the floor. A draft moved through the broken ceiling, carrying the smell of wet wood. Stay by the door, he said. You asked me to bring nails. I changed my mind. You do that a lot? Only when roofs move. He stepped onto a joist where the ceiling plaster had fallen away, reached through the opening, and pulled. A loose section of blue tarp came down with a rush of dirty water. Mara jumped back. Eli did not move fast enough. Water soaked his shirt and ran from his beard. She pressed her lips together. Go ahead, he said. I'm not laughing. Your face is. It's the private religion. He wiped his eyes with one sleeve. Give me 3 nails. She crossed the room carefully, passing them into his open palm. He climbed halfway into the ceiling cavity and began fastening the new tarp to exposed wood. Lightning flashed through the upstairs windows. You said you wouldn't do this in lightning, Mara called. I'm indoors. You're inside the roof. Different department. The leak slowed above him, but appeared in 2 new places near the wall. Mara dragged the ruined mattress aside and positioned an empty paint bucket under one. For the other, she found a flower pot in the hallway. Water drummed into both with different pitches. They worked without talking for several minutes. Eli secured the last corner, backed down, and sat on the floor breathing hard. Rain darkened his shirt from collar to waist. "You okay?" Mara asked. "Excellent. Always wanted to be weather." She leaned against the doorframe. "Why did you come? I told you. You could have waited until morning. I saw the board off the kitchen window when I drove by." "You drove by at midnight?" "I work late sometimes." "At what?" "Anything people pay me to fix." "That sounds legal." "Mostly." The house shuddered in the wind. Mara watched the ceiling opening. The tarp held. Eli pulled himself to his feet with a quiet grunt. "You can't sleep downstairs under that stain." "I'm not under it. You're 8 feet away. The room is 12 feet wide. There aren't many options. The back bedroom is safer. You said there's no smoke detector. I have one in my truck." Mara stared at him. He sighed. It was for another job. "Of course." They carried her blanket upstairs. Eli tested the outlet in the small room with a yellow device he fetched from his truck. It showed no current, which struck Mara as unnecessary confirmation in a house without electricity. He installed the battery smoke detector above the door and pushed hard against the window frame. "This needs work," he said. "It's not raining in." "Low standard. It's my current one." He looked at her across the empty room. Rain hissed against the glass. "You miss work?" he asked. Her phone lay downstairs beside the coffee mug. She had silenced it after Denise's 7th call, meaning to set an alarm before her shift. Mara's stomach tightened. She ran down, nearly stepping onto the plywood marked "No," and grabbed the phone. 9 missed calls. 4 were from the grocery store. The last voicemail was from Sandoval. "Mara, it is 10:15. You are not dead because dead people have someone call for them. Call me." She checked the time. 12:38. Eli stood in the hallway. "Go," he said. "My car might not start." "I'll drive you. I can't leave it here. Nobody wants it. It has everything I own." He glanced toward the ceiling. Apparently not. Mara shoved her feet into her shoes, grabbed the canvas bag, and ran through the rain to Eli's truck. The cab smelled of sawdust, peppermint, and wet dog, though there was no dog. A foam cup filled with screws occupied the cup holder. Mara moved it to the floor. Eli drove with both hands on the wheel and the wipers at their highest speed. "What do I tell him?" she asked. "The truth. That I inherited a house, skipped work, and forgot what time it was? Maybe not all the truth. He'll fire me. Maybe." "You're supposed to say he won't." "I don't know the man." "You're terrible at helping. You keep reviewing the service and still accept rides." The grocery store's red sign glowed across the wet parking lot. Eli stopped near the loading entrance. Mara opened the door, then hesitated. "Are you leaving?" "Eventually. Will you wait?" He looked at the clock on the dashboard. 10 minutes. "What if it takes longer? Then you'll learn the bus schedule." Sandoval stood beside the cardboard baler with his arms crossed. The precise mustache made his expression look even more severe. Mara's shoes squeaked as she approached. "I'm sorry." "I am also sorry," he said. "I am sorry I answered 6 calls asking where you were. I am sorry Janine stayed late. Mostly I am sorry you smell like a basement. I fell asleep. That happens in beds. You own one of those?" The question caught her. Sandoval's face changed by half a degree. "You don't." "I have somewhere now." "Somewhere with a basement smell?" "It's complicated. Complicated gets 1 phone call. You made 0. I know. You want this job? Yes. Why? I need it. Bad answer. What's the good answer? That you're good at it." Mara said nothing. Sandoval scratched the side of his mustache. "You are good at it. You show up. You work. You do not hide cereal behind the paper towels to avoid stocking it." "That was Derek." "I know it was Derek. So am I fired?" Janine covered. "You owe her. Tonight is a write-up. Next time is something worse." Relief made Mara's knees weak, which annoyed her. Sandoval pointed to her work shirt. "Go home. Change. Come tomorrow at 9. Dry in 5 minutes early. I can work now." "You look like a crime scene." "I need the hours. You needed the shift you missed." That stopped her. Sandoval walked away, then turned back. "Damaged sandwiches in the break room cooler. The turkey ones expire at 6. Corporate policy remains hostile to hunger." Eli was still waiting when Mara returned with 2 wrapped sandwiches under her shirt to keep them dry. "You employed?" he asked. "Technically." "Congratulations." "Don't sound so surprised." "I'm surprised by most good news." Back at Willow Street, the rain had eased to a steady fall. The Honda stood untouched. Eli parked behind it and lifted a toolbox from the truck bed. You said 10 minutes. You took 16. You waited. I'm bad at boundaries. Inside, they found the coffee mug overflowing. Water had spread across the counter and dripped onto the floor. Eli moved the mug, set a stock pot beneath the leak, and wiped the counter with the folded towel. Mara watched him wring dirty water into the sink out of habit, though the drain still worked. Ruth used to put pots everywhere, he said. Different sizes made different sounds. She claimed she could tell which leak got worse from bed. She slept through this? Not much. Why didn't she fix the roof? She fixed it 3 times. Houses find new ways to need you. Did she make you help? She made everybody help. I thought you paid rent. Rent did not exempt you from gutters. Mara unwrapped one sandwich and handed him the other. He accepted it after a pause. They sat on the kitchen floor with their backs against opposite cabinets while the pot counted the rain. What happened between Ruth and my mother? Mara asked. Eli peeled back the plastic. That's Denise's story. She doesn't tell it, no, so tell me Ruth's. He looked at the sandwich as if the answer might be printed beneath the ingredient list. They loved each other badly, he said. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have at 1 a.m. Mara took a bite. The bread was damp from her shirt. Eli ate half his sandwich in 3 mouthfuls, then stood. I'll be back at 8. It is 8. 8 with sunlight. He paused beside the door. Sleep upstairs. I will. Shoes by the bed. Tire iron near your hand. I know. And if you hear the roof crack, what does a roof cracking sound like? You'll know. That is not helpful. No, he said. It never is. After he left, Mara carried the blanket upstairs again. The rain softened. She placed her shoes beside the wall, the tire iron within reach, and the blue marble on the windowsill. The small room did not feel safe. It felt chosen. For the first time in 19 nights, Mara closed a door between herself and the world before she slept. Eli's knocking entered Mara's dream as someone hammering inside the wall. She woke with the tire iron across her stomach and sunlight in her eyes. For several seconds, she did not know where she was. Then the yellow flowers on the wallpaper came into focus, along with the smoke detector above the door and the blue marble glowing on the sill. The knocking came again. Roof remains attached, Eli called from downstairs. Owner status unknown. Mara checked her phone. 8:12. You're late, she called, so you're alive. She found him on the porch beside a stack of lumber. Most of it was used with old nail holes and patches of white paint. 2 new boards rested on top, bright and clean. Where did that come from? Garage tear out in Brighton. Homeowner paid me to take it, so it's garbage. Reclaimed material. It has nails in it. Vintage character. He handed her a hammer. Pull them. Mara looked at the lumber, then at him. Good morning to you too. You inherited a house. Mornings are different now. Eli carried the new boards inside. Mara sat on the porch steps and began pulling nails. The first bent instead of coming free. The second tore out with a squeal and sent her elbow backward into the railing. The railing moved. She froze. Don't lean on that, Eli called through the kitchen. You could have mentioned it, just did. By the time she had cleared 4 boards, blisters had formed along her palm. Eli inspected the pile, ran his hand over each piece, and rejected one for rot. What are we doing with these? Making a brace under the north rafters, temporary support. You said $200. I said, maybe 200. These were free. New fasteners and brackets were 46. And the new boards? Mine. That wasn't the deal? We don't have a deal. You can't put your things into my house and then decide what I owe you. Eli stared at her. Mara heard how the words sounded a second too late. She set the hammer down. I mean, I need to know, she said. Before. Before what? Before somebody tells me I've accepted something I can't pay for. His expression shifted, not softer, but less closed. The new boards came from a job that ordered the wrong length, he said. They've been in my truck for a month. You owe 46 for brackets and screws. Labor is not being billed today. Why? Because I knew Ruth. That's not a reason. It's the reason available. Mara picked up the hammer again. I'm paying you back. I assumed you'd try. They worked in the damaged bedroom. Eli measured while Mara held one end of the tape. Then they carried lumber upstairs a board at a time. He showed her how to sight along the edge for warping, and how to place the brace beneath the strongest remaining section, not directly under the deepest sag. "Shouldn't it go where the roof is lowest?" she asked. "If you lift there too fast, you can crack the plaster in the next room. The plaster's already cracked. Then you can crack what's holding the cracked plaster." Houses, Mara thought, had an unreasonable number of ways to fail. Eli fitted a vertical support into place and let her drive the first structural screw. The drill bucked in her hand and stripped the head. She swore. "Good," he said. "That repairs it." "What?" "Swearing. Very important trade skill." He backed out the ruined screw and handed her another. "Keep the drill straight. Don't fight it." "I wasn't fighting. You were trying to punish the wood. It knows what it did." The second screw seated cleanly. By noon, 2 braces stood beneath the north rafters. They were ugly, obvious things, crossing the room like the legs of an enormous table. Eli pushed each one with both hands, then listened while Mara walked along the hallway. "What are you listening for?" she asked. "Complaint. From the house?" "From me, if you step somewhere stupid." He marked unsafe floor sections with blue painter's tape and made her carry the worst pieces of fallen plaster downstairs. Dust coated her arms and hair. Sweat ran between her shoulder blades. Her blister opened, leaving a bright smear on the handle of the bucket. Eli noticed when she changed hands. "Gloves are in my toolbox. I'm fine." That wasn't a question. He tossed her a pair too large for her. She put them on. They stood in the front yard afterward, looking up at the roof. The sag remained. Nothing appeared transformed. "That's it?" Mara asked. "That's temporary. It looks exactly the same. Success often does." She wanted a visible change, something she could point to when Cal said she was wasting time. Instead, she had $46 of hardware hidden beneath a damaged roof. "How much to actually repair it?" she asked. Eli took off his cap and wiped his forehead. His hair was flattened in strange gray ridges. "North slope alone? If the deck isn't worse than it looks, 6,000 or 7,000. Mara laughed because the alternative was sitting down in the grass. "That's not the whole roof?" "No. And I have property taxes." "Yes." "And water, electricity?" "Yes." "Anything else?" "Everything else." She looked at the house. In daylight, with the board removed from the kitchen window, it seemed to be watching her lose an argument. Eli put his cap back on. "You don't have to decide today. Cal says sooner is better. Cal always believes other people should decide quickly when the decision benefits him. Did Ruth ever consider selling? She considered everything, usually out loud and with profanity. But did she? Eli took a long time to answer. She came close once. What stopped her? A car door closed at the curb. A woman with short white hair stood beside an old green sedan, holding a glass baking dish wrapped in 2 towels. She was tall and straight-backed, with lipstick the color of fresh paint. "Eli Mercer," she called. "I knew that was your truck." He muttered something. "What?" "I said we have company." The woman crossed the yard without waiting to be invited. She wore white pants despite the mud, and somehow reached the porch without staining them. "You must be Mara." She shifted the dish to one arm and offered her hand. Nora Bell. Her grip was cool and firm. "How do you know who I am?" "Frank called me." Mara looked across the street. Frank's curtains moved. Nora followed her gaze. "He worries. He disguises it as surveillance." Eli took the baking dish. "What is this?" "Chicken. It's 900 degrees. It came out of the oven." "So, you drove here holding it?" "I use towels, Eli. Civilization has advanced." Nora turned back to Mara. Her attention passed over the dirty work shirt, oversized gloves, and blistered palm without changing her expression. "I rented here for 14 months, she said, long before Eli. From Ruth, from the queen of reasonable demands herself. You liked her? Not every day." Nora walked past Mara into the kitchen. Eli followed with the chicken, leaving Mara on her own porch. "Do people normally let themselves in?" she asked. "No," Nora called back. "Ruth trained us." The kitchen filled with the smell of rosemary and brown skin. Nora removed the towels from the dish and folded them into equal squares. "You took down the board," she said. It was dark. It always was. Ruth liked curtains heavy enough to survive artillery. Nora went to the doorway and looked toward the front stairs. Something eager and nervous appeared in her face. "May I see upstairs?" "Some of it isn't safe. I lived here when none of it was safe." That doesn't make it safer now, Eli said. Nora gave him a dry look. You've become tedious with age. I learned from you. Mara led her up, stepping around the dining room hole. Nora did not need directions. She paused in the hallway, one hand on the banister, and looked at the blue door. That was mine, she said quietly. Eli said, Ruth kept her things in there. She did later, after I left. Nora touched the door with 2 fingers. Her painted nails looked bright against the chipped blue surface. What happened to the key? Mara asked. Ruth had it. She had 17 keys in the kitchen drawer. She never left important keys in the kitchen. That's what he said. Nora smiled faintly. She kept mine in the pocket of a red wool coat, even in summer. Said nobody in their right mind would steal a wool coat in July. Where's the coat? Probably in there. Mara looked at the locked door. That helps. I didn't say she was practical. Nora walked to the small back bedroom. She stood in the doorway while Mara waited for her verdict. This was Marcus's room, Nora said. Who's Marcus? Marcus Reed. He stayed here after Eli's first stretch. Quiet man. Could repair anything with a plug. Another tenant? Nora nodded. There were quite a few of us. Why? The question came out more bluntly than Mara intended. Nora understood it anyway. Because we needed a room, she said. And Ruth had rooms. Downstairs, Eli opened drawers until he found 3 forks. They ate chicken at the kitchen counter because Mara did not trust the dining room floor. Nora had brought potatoes and green beans beneath the chicken, all of it cooked in enough butter to make the expired tomato soup seem personally insulting. Mara ate too quickly. She forced herself to slow down after catching Nora notice. You were a nurse? Mara asked. 37 years. Ruth told you about me? Sometimes. Mara set down her fork. What did she say? Nora took a sip of water from a bottle she had brought. That you were tall? I'm 5'4". You were 7 the last time I heard her say it. Perhaps you looked promising. Eli concentrated on his potatoes. Did she know anything else? Nora's gaze rested on Mara's face. She knew more than she admitted, less than she wanted. It was another answer that offered shape without detail. Mara pushed the food around her plate. Nora touched the edge of the counter. Ruth let me live here after my marriage ended. I was 51, working full-time, and had exactly $12 left every Friday after paying my attorney. Everyone assumed a nurse with a clean uniform had somewhere to go. Mara looked at her white pants, the perfect lipstick. Did she charge you? $80 a week and 1 Sunday dinner a month. She raised it to $85 after I criticized her gravy. That sounds like her, Eli said. You complain too. I complain privately. You complain from the table. Nora smiled, but her fingers remained pressed to the scarred counter. When I could afford an apartment, I stayed 4 more months, she said. Ruth made that difficult. She believed leaving was the point. Then why did she keep the house after everyone left? Nora glanced around the kitchen. Everyone didn't, she said. Before Mara could ask what that meant, an engine growled outside. Cal's black Buick stopped at the curb. He got out holding a white envelope. Nora's mouth went flat. Eli put down his fork. Cal saw them through the uncovered window, and the surprise on his face sharpened into something Mara could not yet name. He looked less troubled by the failing house than by the fact that, for the first time in years, it had people inside. Cal climbed the porch with the envelope tucked beneath his arm. He did not knock. He reached for the kitchen door, found it locked, and stared through the glass until Mara opened it. What's going on? He asked. We're eating chicken. His gaze moved from Nora to Eli and back again. I can see that. Nora lifted her fork. You always were observant. Nora Bell. Cal sounded as if he had found mold beneath wallpaper. Who called you? Frank. Across the street, Frank's curtain dropped. Cal stepped inside. He had changed from the polo shirt into jeans and a short-sleeved work shirt. A small bloodstain marked one cuff. What happened to you? Mara asked. He glanced at it, caught my hand moving boxes out of Ruth's storage unit. You already started? It's mine. Martin gave me access. Eli went on eating, though the way he held his shoulders suggested he was listening to the space between Cal's words. Cal placed the envelope on the counter beside Mara's plate. Property tax statement. Keene sent it to me by mistake with the vehicle paperwork. The amount was printed in a square near the top. $3,842.17. A red line beneath it showed the date after which another penalty would be added. Mara wiped butter from her fingers before touching the paper. 6 weeks, Cal said. I can read. Can you pay it? Nora set down her fork. She has 6 weeks. Cal turned toward her. This is family business, then perhaps behave like family. His face reddened, but he did not answer her. Instead, he looked at the plaster dust on the floor and followed it with his eyes toward the stairs. You've been working upstairs? Brace the north rafters, Eli said. I didn't ask you. No. Who's paying for it? I am, Mara said. Cal gave the kitchen a slow inspection. The stock pot still sat beneath the ceiling leak. Wet towels were draped across the sink. The uncovered window made the water stains and mouse dirt impossible to ignore. You can't repair this $40 at a time. It was $46. That helps. Mara folded the tax statement and put it back in the envelope. You came to deliver this. You delivered it. I also came because Denny called. He said you were asking about the roof. So he thinks you might be serious. About my own house? About throwing money into it? Nora made a quiet sound of disgust. Cal pointed at her. You don't get to make that noise. You lived here when every pipe froze 2 winters in a row. You know what this place costs. I also know what it provided, at Ruth's expense. At mine, actually. It was called rent. Rent that didn't cover half of what she spent. Because she refused to charge more. Exactly. Mara looked between them. Why are you angry that she charged cheap rent? Cal's attention snapped back to her. I'm angry because I spent 15 years being called whenever a toilet backed up or a furnace quit. Ruth would take in somebody who couldn't pay, then call me because she couldn't pay the plumber. Eli leaned against the counter. You usually came. Yes, I came. The force of it silenced the room. Cal flexed his right hand. A fresh cut crossed one knuckle, the source of the blood on his cuff. I came when she fell too, he said. Did anybody tell you that? She lay at the bottom of those stairs for 9 hours because she refused to wear the alert button I bought her. I found her. I called the ambulance. I sat at the hospital while she told the nurses I was trying to steal her house. Nora's expression softened, though only slightly. Cal looked at Mara. You think I want this property because I'm greedy? I want it finished. I want one thing involving Ruth to be finished. He turned and walked toward the door. Mara should have let him leave. Instead, she asked, why did she leave it to me? His hand stopped on the knob. I don't know. You never asked? I asked her plenty. She thought questions were surrender. Did she talk about me? Cal faced the door while he answered. Not to me. Then he looked back at Eli and Nora. If she's staying here and something happens, that's on both of you. It's on me, Mara said. That's what Ruth always said. He left. The Buick started hard, gave one smooth, expensive purr, and disappeared around the corner. Mara unfolded the tax bill again. The number had not improved. Nora gathered the plates. He isn't lying, she said. Mara looked up. About what? Ruth calling him. Cal repaired the downstairs toilet so many times that he eventually threatened to charge admission. He wants the land. Yes, those things don't fit together. Most true things don't fit neatly. Nora carried the plates to the sink, turned the faucet, and seemed surprised when nothing happened. Eli handed her a bottle of water. He found Ruth after she fell? Mara asked. Yes. Where was everybody who lived here? Gone by then. Ruth had stopped renting rooms after her balance worsened. We tried to convince her to move downstairs. She said the downstairs bedroom had depressing wallpaper. Eli wiped the counter with a paper towel. It was beige. It was depressing. Mara touched the tax bill with one finger. You said everyone didn't leave. Not all at once, Nora said. There was always someone here. Sometimes one person, sometimes 5. Ruth complained about every one of us, as though our arrival had been a clerical error. Why did people come? Word traveled. What word? That if you had a job but not enough deposit, Ruth might take weekly rent. If you'd left somewhere suddenly and did not want questions asked in front of strangers, she'd show you a room first and ask later. If you had no furniture, there was probably already a bed. Didn't anyone take advantage? Of course. Nora dried the plates with one of the towels that had wrapped the chicken. Some people left owing money. One stole a lamp. A man named Curtis tried to sell Ruth's lawnmower while she was using it. What did she do? Bought it back from the pawn shop and added the cost to his rent. She let him stay for 2 months. Then she threw his clothes onto the porch after he tried to sell Eli's toolbox. Eli held up one finger, attempted to sell. Nobody would pay what he wanted. Mara tried to imagine the dark kitchen crowded with people arguing about a lawnmower. The house had seemed abandoned from the street for as long as she could remember. Even before the boards, Denise drove a different route rather than pass it. Why didn't Ruth tell the family? She did, Nora said. They called us strays. She folded the towel and set it beside the clean mug. It was not perfect here, Mara. Ruth could make kindness feel like military service. She read mail over your shoulder and asked about every unfamiliar car, but no one had to pretend they were fine before coming through the door. Nora's eyes settled on the canvas bag by the stairs. Mara looked away first. After Nora left, promising to return for her baking dish, Eli gathered his tools. I have to get to a job, he said. Mara took $46 from her wallet. 2 20s, 1 5, and a 1. Her cash looked painfully thin afterward. Eli accepted it without counting. Do you know anything about alternators? She asked. They generate electrical current. Anything useful? They cost money. My headlights dim when I stop. Could be the alternator. Could be a bad connection. How much? For me to look? Nothing. I'm not doing the thing where I owe you and don't know it. Then $20. To look? You insisted. He followed her outside and had her start the Honda. The engine turned reluctantly. He pressed on one battery cable, frowned, then shut the car off. This terminal is loose and corroded. Can you fix it? Temporary or correctly? Which one costs less? He gave her a look. Temporary, she said. He cleaned the connection with a wire brush from his truck, tightened it, and made her start the engine again. The headlights held steady. $20, Mara said. Eli closed the hood. I was being sarcastic. You shouldn't name prices sarcastically. She held out a bill. He refused it twice. On the third attempt, he took the money, opened the driver's door, and slid it under the loose rubber floor mat. Now the car has savings, he said. Mara dug for it. He shut the door before she could reach inside. Tomorrow, he said, make a list. Of what? Everything the house needs. That could take a year. Start with everything that can hurt you. He drove away. Mara arrived at the grocery store at 8:53 in a clean shirt, her damp hair tied back. Janine was stocking bottled juice in the refrigerated aisle. She was 26 and wore purple eyeliner, even on overnight shifts. Mara approached with the cautious feeling of someone preparing to be slapped by a polite person. I'm sorry you had to stay, Mara said. Janine put another bottle on the shelf. I missed a dentist appointment. At 10 at night? I like him. Mara waited. Janine sighed. It was drinks. I missed drinks. I'll take one of your shifts. I already gave you one. I mean, another one. That is not how owing works. What do you want me to do? Text me if you're not coming. I don't care if your reason is bad. Mara nodded. Janine glanced at the blister visible beneath the bandage on her palm. Sandoval said, family emergency. Something like that. Your mom? Something less stable. Janine looked curious but returned to the juice. At 4 in the morning, Sandoval assigned Mara to the household aisle. She stocked smoke detector batteries, extension cords, and packages of sponges while mentally pricing each item. During break, she took the tax statement from her bag and wrote figures on the back. Cash after paying Eli. $368. Friday paycheck, after deductions, approximately $492. 6 weeks of food, gas, gym membership, phone, property taxes, roof, water, power. The math did not become more respectful when she rearranged it. She turned the paper over and began the list Eli had requested. Roof collapse, fire, bad wiring, mold, broken stairs, no water. She added porch railing, then crossed it out because a loose railing seemed almost friendly beside the roof. At the bottom, she wrote one more item. People making decisions when she was tired. Mara drew a box around it. When she returned to Willow Street after sunrise, a paper grocery bag sat on the porch. Inside were work gloves in her size, 2 flashlights with fresh batteries, a loaf of bread, and a jar of peanut butter. There was no note. Mara looked across the street. Frank's curtains remained still. She carried the bag inside and locked the door behind her. On the counter, beside the clean coffee mug, she placed the tax statement and her list. The kitchen looked terrible in daylight. This time, terrible looked like somewhere to begin. The grocery bag remained unexplained for 3 days. Frank denied leaving it, though he did so with the exaggerated innocence of a man who had recently confessed to monitoring the street. Nora said she had brought chicken, which was enough generosity for 1 week. Eli inspected the flashlights, declared them cheap, and refused to guess. Denise did not answer Mara's text. Mara used the gloves anyway. She began with the kitchen. Mouse dirt came out of the cabinets in black, humiliating quantities. She threw away the expired soup and chipped plates, scrubbed the shelves with bleach, and opened the window until the chemical smell stopped burning her eyes. Eli helped her force the swollen window upward, then wedged it with a scrap of wood because the sash cord had snapped. "Add it to the list," he said. "There's no room. Use the back." The list spread from the tax statement onto 3 paper grocery bags flattened across the counter. Eli divided the problems into now, soon, and when you're rich. The last category included refinishing floors, restoring the fireplace, and buying matching doorknobs. "Why would I want matching doorknobs?" You wrote missing doorknob. "I need 1 doorknob. Today that is your opinion." They worked around Mara's overnight schedule. She slept in the back bedroom until noon, worked through the afternoon, showered at the gym, and drove to the grocery store by 9. The days lost their names and became tasks: mold treatment, window seal, porch brace, laundry. Eli found 2 used water barrels and set them beneath the remaining gutters so they could flush the toilet. It required carrying buckets upstairs, which made Mara appreciate indoor plumbing as a historical achievement rather than a basic expectation. The electricity was worse. Eli removed the cover from the kitchen service panel and immediately put it back. "No," he said. "What does no cost? More than you have. Can't you fix it?" "I can do many things badly enough to regret. Electrical work is not one." He gave her the number of an electrician named Marcus Reed. Mara recognized the name. The appliance guy? Now, the appliance guy. Used to be the bedroom with yellow wallpaper guy. She called twice and reached voicemail both times. The tax deadline remained circled in red on the counter. After 2 weeks, Mara had saved $813. Even if she spent nothing on food, gasoline, or repairs, she would not reach the full amount before the penalty date. She began opening closets. The downstairs hall closet contained 6 umbrellas, a canister vacuum that smelled like burning hair, and winter coats wrapped in plastic. The parlor cabinet held china with tiny blue flowers. Mara photographed each pattern and searched online between shifts. None was rare. Most listings had been waiting months for buyers. Ruth's furniture was solid but enormous. Removing it would require crossing damaged floors, and local listings were full of people trying to give away furniture that weighed less than a piano. Mara sold a brass fireplace screen for $60, a ceramic garden seat for $45, and 3 frame prints for $20 each. A woman drove 40 minutes for a porcelain rooster, then tried to offer $8 because one painted eye appeared judgmental. "It's a rooster," Mara said. "I know, I'm telling you the energy is off. The price is $15. The woman paid $12. Nora returned for her baking dish during the rooster negotiation and watched from the porch until the buyer left. "You should have charged more for emotional damage," she said. Mara handed her the clean dish. "Do you know if anything in the house is valuable?" Ruth thought everything was valuable. "I mean, worth money. I know what you meant." Nora inspected the kitchen, now clear of debris. The cabinet doors stood open to dry. A jar held forks and screwdrivers separately, and the clean coffee mug sat upright beside the sink. "You've worked," she said. Mara waited for the rest. Nora ran one finger along the counter, found no dust, and nodded. "Come upstairs," Mara said. The blue door remained locked. The rejected keys still lay beneath it, though Mara had arranged them in a straighter row. Nora said Ruth kept the key in a red coat, Mara told Eli when he arrived. Nora also believes hospital food improves if you threaten administration. "It does," Nora said. Eli examined the hinges. They faced the hallway, each pin painted over so many times that the metal looked buried. "I can take the door off," he said. Mara touched the knob. "Will it damage anything?" "The paint, possibly my vocabulary." Ruth locked it. "It's your room now," Nora said. That did not settle the question. Mara had entered every other space in the house because danger required it. The blue door felt different. Its lock was not a broken thing that needed repair. Ruth had chosen it. Then Mara glanced toward the counter downstairs, where the tax bill waited beneath 3 flattened grocery bags. "Open it," she said. Eli used a utility knife to score the paint around each hinge. Nora held a flashlight even though sunlight filled the hallway. Mara steadied the door, while Eli tapped the first pin upward with a nail set and hammer. The pin moved a 1/4 inch. "Language remains acceptable," Nora said. "Give it time." The second pin came out coated in rust. The third refused. Eli struck it harder, missed, and hit his thumb. Nora raised her eyebrows. He whispered something into his beard. "Acceptable," she decided. When the last pin came free, the door tilted toward Mara. It was heavier than she expected. Eli caught the top, and together they carried it sideways into the hall. A closed room had its own smell: dust, old perfume, wool, and the dry sweetness of paper. Ruth's bedroom was smaller than Mara had imagined. A narrow bed stood beneath the window, covered by a white chenille spread. The dresser top held a brush with long gray hairs caught in its bristles, 2 bottles of hand lotion, and a photograph of a woman Mara did not recognize. Boxes lined one wall in careful stacks. A red wool coat hung from a hook behind the door. Nora reached into its pocket and drew out a key. Eli looked at the open doorway. "Private religion," he said. Nora handed the key to Mara. It fit the lock perfectly. Mara laughed once, then covered her mouth. The sound felt disrespectful and necessary at the same time. She moved through the room slowly. Ruth's shoes waited beneath the bed, toes facing outward. A glass of pennies sat on the windowsill. The closet held plain dresses, work shirts, and more coats than one person needed. "This was your room?" Mara asked Nora. "Mine had different curtains." "That's what changed?" Ruth moved in here after the plumbing in her room developed a leak. Then she decided she preferred the morning light. "Where was her old room?" "Back corner. Your room now." Mara looked at Nora. The yellow flowers were her choice? Ruth believed cheerful wallpaper could overcome poor architecture. Eli opened one of the boxes. It contained folded sheets labeled by size and black marker. "Anything we can sell?" Mara asked. "You can sell anything," Nora said. "The question is whether someone will buy it." The top dresser drawer held receipts, spare buttons, and church bulletins from a church Ruth had not attended in years. Beneath them lay a bundle of envelopes tied with blue yarn. Mara recognized Denise's handwriting on the top one. "Ruth Vance," it said in large letters. "Return to sender" was stamped across the front. Her fingers went cold. There were more beneath it. Some addressed to Mara at old apartments where she and Denise had lived. Some addressed to Denise. All had been returned. Mara untied the yarn. The first envelope contained a birthday card with a cartoon dog holding 7 balloons. Ruth had written, "Hope 7 is tall enough to reach the good cookies. Your mother always hid them badly. Love, Aunt Ruth." The card had never been opened. Another was for Mara's 9th birthday. Another for her 10th. Nora sat on the edge of the bed. Eli quietly carried the door farther down the hallway, though it no longer needed moving. Mara opened an envelope addressed to Denise. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Denny came by about the gutters. I told him no. I will not discuss the house with Cal through you. If Mara wants her blue sweater, it is washed and here. You left before I could give it back." There was no date. Mara did not remember a blue sweater. "Did my mother send these back?" she asked. Nora looked at the red stamps. "It appears so. She told me Ruth never wrote." Neither Nora nor Eli answered. Mara kept searching the drawer. Beneath the bundle lay grocery store photographs in paper sleeves. In one, 7-year-old Mara stood on a soccer field with her hands on her knees, looking furious at the sun. Another showed her at a public pool, wearing a towel around her shoulders. She knew the photographs. Denise had ordered doubles. On the back of the soccer picture, Ruth had written number 7. That was all. The next box held bank statements and medical papers. Mara closed it. The one beneath contained notebooks, all the same cheap black and white composition style. The first page she opened was dated 10 years earlier. "Tuesday," Nora called. "New furnace noise." Eli says, "Bearing." Denise's girl plays soccer now. Number 7. Asked Cal if she is any good. He said, "How would I know?" Mara read the sentence twice. "She wrote about me." Nora's lipstick had faded. She looked older, sitting on Ruth's bed. "Yes." "Where did she get the pictures?" "I don't know." "Did you give them to her?" "No." "Eli?" He shook his head. Cal had seen Mara play once, but the note suggested he knew no more than Ruth. Other relatives might have passed things along. None of that mattered as much as the existence of the notebooks in Mara's hands. Ruth had known pieces, not enough to call, not enough to come, enough to keep. Mara carried the bundle of envelopes downstairs and placed it beside the tax statement. Her phone lay charging from the battery pack Eli had lent her. She called Denise. No answer. Mara called again. The third time, Greg picked up. "She's resting," he said. "Wake her." "Mara, your mom has had a difficult week. So have I. This situation with the property is putting pressure on everybody." "I found the cards." There was silence. "What cards?" Greg asked. "She knows." Another silence followed, muffled this time. Mara heard a hand cover the phone and the low murmur of voices. Then Denise came on. "Where did you find them?" "In Ruth's room." "You broke into her room?" "It's my house. That does not make every private thing yours. She sent me birthday cards. You sent them back." Denise breathed in slowly. "Mara, there are things you don't understand." "Then explain one." "I'm not doing this while you're angry. You weren't going to do it while I was calm. I protected you from that woman." "From a cartoon dog?" Nora turned toward the window. Eli studied the floor. Denise's voice became thin. "You had no right to go through those." Mara looked at the returned cards, their sealed envelopes opened for the first time on a scarred kitchen counter. "You made sure I didn't have a right to anything," she said. She ended the call before Denise could answer. Her hand shook so badly that the phone struck the counter. Upstairs, a draft moved through Ruth's open doorway. One of the loose cards slid from the bundle and fell face up on the floor, 7 bright balloons rising above a dog that had waited 11 years to be seen. Mara picked up the card and wiped dust from one corner with her thumb. Nora came down the stairs carrying the bundle of blue yarn. "You may want this," she said. Mara took it without looking at her. "Did you know my mother sent them back?" "No." "Would you tell me if you did?" "Yes." "Eli?" "No," he said. "And Ruth wouldn't have told us. Not about that." Mara retied the cards too tightly. The envelopes bent beneath the yarn. Nora put on her sunglasses, though they were still inside. "I'm going to leave before Denise arrives. You think she's coming?" "I would." "That's why you're leaving?" "That's why I'm giving you privacy." Mara almost asked her to stay. The request reached the back of her teeth and stopped there. Nora touched her shoulder once as she passed. It was not quite a hug, which made it easier to bear. Eli remained by the stairs. "You can go too," Mara said. "I have tools upstairs. Then get them." He did. He came back carrying his drill case and the rejected kitchen keys in a jar. "I moved these," he said, "so nobody steps on them. Thank you. I'll call Marcus again." "Okay." Eli hesitated at the door. Ruth could be mean. Mara looked at him. Not difficult, not complicated. Mean. She knew where people were tender, and if she thought they were lying, she pushed there. "Are you defending my mother?" "I'm preventing a dead woman from getting easier to love than she was alive." He left the jar on the counter and walked out. Denise's crossover arrived 11 minutes later. She parked crookedly behind the Honda and crossed the yard without changing out of her low-heeled sandals. Mud caught at the edges, turning the tan leather dark. Mara waited in the kitchen. Denise opened the door and stared at the bundle of cards. "Where are the notebooks?" "Upstairs." "You went through all of them?" "No." "Good. Why?" "Because they're Ruth's private thoughts. Ruth is dead. That doesn't make privacy disappear. You put my name on paperwork so Cal could handle my property." Denise flinched. That was a mistake. Leaving it open was a mistake. Or making it. Both. Mara had prepared sentences while waiting. They had been clear and sharp. Now Denise stood in the kitchen with mud on her expensive sandals and a faint damp circle beneath each arm of her blouse. And every sentence tangled. She untied the yarn. Denise watched but did not stop her. "You mailed this back when I turned 7. I know. Why? It wasn't about you. My name is on it. I was angry at her. So you punished her with me." Denise sat on the wooden chair Mara had brought from the dining room after Eli tested the floor beneath it. "That is not what I thought I was doing." "What did you think?" "I thought I was closing a door." "You closed it from both sides." Denise pressed the heel of one hand to her forehead. "Your father left me with debt I didn't know existed. Ruth let me stay here. For a while, that helped." "For a while?" She charged rent I could afford. She watched you when I worked. She bought groceries and then made a show of not noticing when I used them. Mara said nothing. She also opened my bank statements. She called my manager to ask why I wasn't getting more hours. When I went out, she wanted the address, the telephone number, and a description of whoever I was with. That sounds like Ruth. You didn't know her. The words came fast enough to cut. Denise looked down. That's the point, I suppose. Mara held the birthday card by its edges. What did you fight about? A man. Greg? No, long before Greg. Who? It doesn't matter. Ruth thought he was using me. I thought she couldn't stand not being the person I needed. Was he? What? Using you. Denise laughed once without humor. Yes? A pipe clicked in the wall. She was right, Mara said. She was right about him. She believed that made her right about everything. Denise rose and walked to the sink. She touched the clean mug, then immediately took her hand away. She said, I kept chasing people who promised me an easier life and leaving her to clean up afterward. I said she made people dependent so they couldn't leave without feeling guilty. We were both cruel. The difference was that she had a house full of people ready to call her cruel and wonderful in the same breath. I had nobody. You had me. I had a responsibility. Mara's throat tightened. Denise turned. That came out wrong. No, it came out honest. You were not a burden. I didn't say burden. Mara, you said responsibility. You were also the best thing in my life. But first, I was something you had to carry. Denise gripped the edge of the sink. She looked suddenly tired, not polished or carefully arranged, just tired. Yes, she said. Sometimes, you were. The honesty hurt less than the denial would have. Mara resented that too. Denise nodded toward the cards. I sent the first one back because it had a note inside for me. Ruth wrote that she hoped I was finally behaving like a mother. The next year, she sent another. By then, I had told you she didn't want contact. I didn't know how to explain that I had lied, so I kept lying. This one doesn't have a note. I know. You opened it? No, I could see there wasn't one. Mara stared at her. That makes it worse, Denise said. I know. Why didn't Ruth come find me? She knew where we lived. The answer landed between them. I used to expect her, Denise said, every birthday, every Christmas. I thought she would show up and make a scene. She never did. She mailed things. She asked other people questions. She kept records. Ruth was brave when she could stay in her own kitchen. Mara looked around the kitchen. The cracked linoleum, the pot beneath the leak. The place where Ruth had apparently been strongest and safest, which were not always the same thing. You told me she didn't care. I needed that to be true. And now? Denise picked up her purse. Now she left you this house, and I'm standing in it. That isn't an answer. It's the one I have today. She walked toward the door, then stopped. I left the groceries. What groceries? Denise looked puzzled. The bag, gloves, bread. You left that? You needed gloves. You could have put your name on it. I didn't think you'd use them if I did. Mara hated that her mother knew her well enough to be right. Denise stepped onto the porch. One heel sank into a soft board, and she grabbed the frame. Don't step there, Mara said automatically. Denise recovered and looked back. For a second, something like amusement passed across her face. You sound like Ruth. The comparison made Mara's skin prickle. Don't. Denise nodded. All right. She left with mud on both shoes. Mara sat at the counter and opened the first composition notebook. She read until the afternoon light moved from one wall to the other. Ruth recorded furnace noises, rent paid in partial amounts, arguments about dishes, and the names of people who borrowed tools. Mara appeared only in fragments. Mara hates canned peaches, according to Lydia. Soccer photograph, number 7. Denise changed phone numbers again. Cal says Mara wants to be a carpenter, probably a joke. She always took things apart. The final line stopped her. She had told Cal that once at a family barbecue. She had been 12 and fascinated by the way a deck fit together. Cal had laughed and told her carpenters started before noon. Ruth had written it down. Someone knocked on the kitchen window. A tall black man stood outside, wearing a gray work shirt embroidered Reed Appliance Electric. He pointed toward the door. Mara let him in. Marcus Reed, he said. Eli called enough times that I assumed somebody was bleeding. He appeared to be in his early 40s, with close-cut hair and heavy black-framed glasses. A voltage tester protruded from his shirt pocket. Mara, I know. Nora called too. Did Frank? Frank has not yet called, but I'm braced. He looked around the kitchen. His gaze stopped at the ceiling leak, then the open service panel, then the flattened grocery bags covered in lists. You're living here? Yes. Don't tell me that. Why? Because then I'm professionally obligated to say you shouldn't. Everyone has said it. Good. Saves time. Marcus removed the panel cover. He studied the wiring without touching it, then crouched and shone a flashlight upward. Eli was right to stop. Can you make it safe? Those are two different questions. That's what he says. He says it because I taught him. From upstairs came a bang as a loose window shifted in the wind. Marcus looked toward the sound. Yellow room still in the back? Yes. He smiled faintly. That window has always hated weather. You lived there. 11 months, Nora said after prison. His smile vanished. Mara wished she could pull the sentence back. Nora believes biographies should fit on name tags, he said. I'm sorry, don't be sorry, be less fast. He returned to the panel. I can isolate most of the bad circuits, he said. Run one safe line to the kitchen and one upstairs. Enough for lights, refrigerator, phone charging, not heat, not the whole house. How much? With permit, materials, and my time, $2,400. Mara leaned against the counter. Marcus glanced at her lists. How much do you have? Not that. How much? $800. But taxes are due. He took off his glasses and cleaned them on his shirt. Ruth let me pay $60 a week when I started at the repair shop, he said. I paid every Friday in an envelope in the pantry. I checked the pantry, not the shelves, the door. He opened it. Faint pencil lines covered the inside, beneath layers of grime, names, dates, amounts, small check marks. Mercer, Bell, Reed, T. Jackson, L. Price. At the bottom, in Ruth's handwriting, someone had written, "Pay what you said. Say if you can't." Marcus tapped his own name. I don't work for free, he said. Ruth would come back to complain. I'm not asking you to. Good. You can pay for materials now. Labor weekly. How much weekly? 60. The same amount he had once paid. Mara looked at him. Don't make it sentimental, Marcus said. I hate that. Eli said you could fix anything with a plug. Eli lies. Can you start tomorrow? Marcus put his glasses on. Now, he said. Before I remember, I have better judgment. Marcus removed every fuse from the panel and lined them on the counter like evidence. This one is 30 amps, he said. Is that bad? It's bad when somebody put it on wire designed for 15. Ruth? Ruth knew better. Eli? Eli believes electricity is angry plumbing. Also no. He shone his flashlight into the open wall and found a splice wrapped in stiff black tape. That, he said, is why we're opening more plaster. Mara looked at the wall she had scrubbed that morning. How much more? Enough to discover what the last person hoped nobody discovered. Marcus handed her safety glasses and drew a rectangle in pencil. She cut the plaster with a handsaw while he held a vacuum beneath it. Dust escaped anyway, covering the clean counter and settling into the coffee mug. You just made everything dirty. Renovation is the art of destroying a house in the correct order. Inside the wall, old cloth-covered wire crossed newer yellow cable. The cables met in an uncovered junction box packed with dead insects. Marcus made a dissatisfied sound. More money? Mara asked. More language. By late afternoon, they had traced the worst circuit through the kitchen and partway up the stairs. Marcus wrote a material list, called it the optimistic list, then drove Mara to the electrical supply store. The total came to $674. Mara slid her debit card into the reader and watched nearly all her saved money become conduit, boxes, breakers, cable, and things called bushings that looked too small to cost anything. The cashier asked if she wanted the receipt. Yes, she and Marcus said together. Back at the house, Marcus labeled the paper envelope materials and wrote the amount on the front. What do I do with this? Mara asked. Put it in the pantry. Why? So we know what was paid. It's my receipt. And in 3 months, when you're tired and angry, you won't wonder whether I charge you for something twice. Mara opened the pantry door. Beneath Ruth's faded pencil marks, Marcus wrote his own name again. Reed, materials, $674. Labor, $60 per week. He handed Mara the pencil. She added Mara beneath it, then stopped. What am I supposed to owe myself? Everything. She put the pencil down. Marcus worked until 7. Mara left for the grocery store before he finished and found him gone when she returned after dawn. A new metal box sat beside the kitchen door. Conduit ran upward in one straight line, and a single outlet wore a white cover. A note was taped above it, "Not live. Do not test with fork." Below that, in smaller writing, E-L-I. Mara smiled despite herself. She slept 4 hours, then spent the afternoon running cable through holes Marcus drilled. He made her measure every length twice and accused her of wasting wire when she left an extra foot. "You said extra was safer. Extra is safer. That is not extra. That is a jump rope." By the third day, the safe circuit reached the back bedroom. Marcus installed a plain ceiling fixture with a frosted glass globe. "Ready?" he called from downstairs. Mara stood beneath it. "Ready." A breaker clicked. The bulb came on. It was only one light. It showed the water stain in the corner, the peeling seam in the yellow wallpaper, and a spider web she had not noticed above the closet. It was brighter than the battery lantern and less flattering than morning. Mara reached for the switch and turned it off, then on again. "Don't wear it out," Marcus called. She did it once more. When she returned downstairs, Eli and Nora had appeared in the kitchen. Frank stood outside the window, pretending to inspect a hedge that belonged to Ruth. "Why is everybody here?" Mara asked. Nora looked up at the glowing ceiling fixture Marcus had installed above the sink. "Electricity," she said. "You all have it at home, not this electricity." Marcus leaned against the counter with his arms crossed. He looked pleased and irritated about being pleased. Eli opened the refrigerator Mara had bought, used for $80. The interior light came on, illuminating nothing but bottled water and half a jar of mustard. "Works," he said. "It was working when I bought it." "You bought it from a man named Skeeter. His name was Peter. His listing said Skeeter. He was selling a refrigerator, not running for office." Nora placed a bottle of champagne inside. Mara stared at it. "I don't drink. It's sparkling cider. The label is deceptive because adults also deserve bubbles." Frank finally gave up on the hedge and came in carrying 5 paper cups. The kitchen light remained on while they drank warm cider and ate crackers over the counter. Nobody made a speech. Marcus charged Mara $60 and put the envelope in the pantry. That pleased her more than a gift would have. The light changed how she moved through the house. She no longer climbed the stairs with a flashlight in her teeth. She charged her phone beside the bed and used a small fan during the hottest afternoons. The refrigerator kept milk cold. Every improvement revealed 3 things still missing, but the house had begun answering back when she worked on it. Eli replaced the stolen basement pipe with PEX, teaching Mara how to make crimp connections. The first joint leaked. The second leaked more creatively. On the third attempt, water stayed inside the pipe. They opened the street valve together. The kitchen faucet groaned, spat brown water, then released a clear, steady stream. Mara put both hands beneath it. The water was cold enough to hurt. "Turn it off," Eli said. "We need to check for leaks." She let it run another second. A week later, Tasha Jackson arrived carrying 6 clear storage bins and a label maker. She was a compact woman in green medical scrubs, with silver hoops in her ears, and an expression that made introductions seem optional. "Nora says you're keeping linens in garbage bags. They're clean bags." That was not the accusation. Tasha had rented the front upstairs room while training as a home health aide. She knew which closets stayed dry and which dresser drawers swelled shut in humid weather. She also knew that Ruth kept cash envelopes beneath an old bread box in the pantry. "Not hidden money," Tasha said when Mara looked quickly toward the shelf. "Receipts." Ruth didn't trust memory after 60. They found the dented metal bread box behind paint cans. Inside were empty envelopes labeled by week and tenant. Some showed uneven payments. Bell, 80, Mercer, 45, O's 40, Reed, 60, Jackson, 30. "This week, talk Sunday." "What happened Sunday?" Mara asked. "I paid 30 more and made dinner. Did she forgive the rest?" "No." She carried it forward until I caught up. Tasha ran her thumb across Ruth's handwriting. That mattered. She didn't pretend money wasn't real. She just let it arrive in pieces. Together they sorted usable sheets, towels, and curtains from the contents of Ruth's room. Tasha labeled each bin in block letters. Nora brought cedar sachets. Eli complained they made everything smell like a grandmother's purse and was assigned to carry the heaviest boxes. Janine came after her shift to help move the ruined iron bed out of the storm-damaged room. She wore the purple eyeliner with gray sweatpants and said almost nothing until they reached the porch. "You live here?" she asked. "One room is safe." Janine looked at the sagging roof, then at the open kitchen window. "My sister would have a heart attack. Is that who you live with?" "For now." They carried the mattress frame to the curb. Janine dusted rust from her palms. Her boyfriend moved in. Mara waited. "He thinks my share of rent should stay the same, even though he's there every night, uses my car, and eats food with my name on it. Put your name on him." Janine laughed. "You sound like Sandoval. That is the meanest thing anybody's said to me here." The tax deadline arrived on a Thursday. Mara had managed to save $1,100 after utilities, materials, gasoline, and Marcus's weekly payments. She called the county office during her lunch break and spoke to a woman named Charlene who sounded bored by catastrophe. "The penalty is 1% this month," Charlene said. "What happens to the house? You continue to owe taxes. Nobody takes it? Not Friday, if that's what you mean." Cal had made the date sound like a trapdoor. In reality, the debt grew by $38 and change. Mara hated the extra cost. She hated even more that she felt relieved to pay it. She submitted $1,000 toward the balance and printed the receipt at the grocery store. Sandoval watched the page emerge from the office printer. "Did you buy a county?" he asked. "Part of one." "You're out of black ink. Take it from my check." "That is not how office supplies work." Mara pinned the receipt inside the pantry. 2 days later, Cal saw the lights. He parked the Buick at dusk and stood in the yard while the kitchen glowed behind Mara. The porch had been braced, the grass cut, and 2 of the plywood window coverings removed. None of it was beautiful, but the house no longer looked asleep. He came inside without being invited, then stopped when the refrigerator compressor hummed. "You turned the utilities on?" "Yes." "How?" "With money." "Whose?" "Mine." Cal opened his mouth, closed it, and examined the new conduit. His fingers moved across the white outlet cover without touching it. "Marcus?" "Yes." "He charges too much. He charges $60 a week." Cal looked at her. Mara opened the pantry door and showed him the envelopes. She did not know why. Perhaps she wanted one person in her family to admit the house had changed. His gaze moved over the old names and the new entries. For a moment, his expression was almost grief. Then it hardened. "You paid the taxes?" "1,000. Partial payment doesn't solve it. It keeps it mine." Cal walked to the uncovered window. Across the street, Frank lifted one hand. Cal did not wave back. "Denny knows a couple interested in the lot," he said. "They'd pay 32,000 asses." Mara's stomach tightened. It was more money than she had ever seen written beside her name. "After taxes and demolition?" she asked. "They'd handle demolition." "You clear the taxes at closing. What do you get?" "Nothing. I don't believe you." He turned from the window. "I get to stop watching you become Ruth. You mean fixing what everyone else rejected?" "I mean mistaking exhaustion for purpose." The words found her because they were not entirely wrong. Cal saw that. "The offer expires in 10 days, he said. "Think about what 30,000 could do for you." After he left, Mara stood beneath the kitchen light with the faucet dripping behind her. 30,000 could buy reliable transportation, community college tuition, a clean apartment where the ceiling did not need a pot beneath it. Upstairs, the roof gave a low, familiar groan. For the first time since she had taken the key, Mara wondered whether refusing Cal had become more important than choosing what she actually wanted. The offer sat on the counter for 2 days without being written down. $32,000 existed only in Cal's voice, which made it easy to distrust and impossible to stop calculating. Mara calculated while stocking coffee. After taxes, she might keep 28,000. A reliable used car would take 8. 2 years at community college could take 12, more if she stopped working full-time. That left enough for an apartment deposit and a few months of rent. It was not a fortune, it was a door. At 4 in the morning, Janine found her holding the same can of coffee she had already placed on the shelf. "You reading the label for spiritual guidance?" she asked. "I got an offer on the house. The falling house, 32,000. Janine took the can from her and faced it correctly. "Take it." Mara looked at her. "What?" "I thought you'd say something else." "I sleep on a pull-out chair while a grown man eats food labeled Janine. 32,000 sounds like heaven with dental coverage. It's the land they want. Land also counts. Janine opened another box. Do you want the house? Mara thought about the first kitchen light, the water biting cold across her hands, and the private click of the back bedroom door closing at night. I don't know. That's probably important. Sandoval appeared at the end of the aisle with a clipboard. If either of you receives spiritual guidance from canned coffee, tell it aisle 6 is behind. Mara worked faster. When she returned to Willow Street, a white city vehicle was parked at the curb. A woman wearing steel-toed boots and a navy polo stood on the porch photographing the loose railing. Mara crossed the yard. Can I help you? The woman lowered her phone. Are you the owner? Yes. I'm Dana Foster, Neighborhood Compliance. Mara looked at the municipal badge clipped to her belt. There's already a notice. The previous notice covered vacant property maintenance. We received a report that the structure may now be occupied. From who? Complaints are confidential. Cal Vance? Dana's expression did not move. That was answer enough. I'm fixing it, Mara said. I can see work has been done. Do you have permits for the electrical and plumbing? Yes, Marcus had insisted. Eli had complained about the fee and then driven her to the permit office. Dana checked a tablet. Electrical is open. Plumbing is listed as a repair. Good. Relief came too early. The front porch is an immediate hazard, Dana continued. The northeast support is separating from the beam. Until that's corrected, access needs to be restricted. I use the side door. And the second floor? One room. Is the building insured? I'm working on it. Dana looked past her through the kitchen window. The light was still on. I'm not here to make you homeless, she said. The word struck with embarrassing accuracy. I'm not homeless. Then give me a safe mailing address, and don't sleep here until the occupancy items are cleared. What items? Dana showed her the screen. Smoke detectors on each occupied floor, clear exits, tested electrical service, functioning sanitation, stabilized porch access, a structural evaluation of the damaged roof section. I have smoke detectors and water. The electrical work is permitted. The open permit hasn't had final inspection. Marcus says next week, then get it inspected. I'll give you 14 days on the porch hazard. The roof needs a written assessment before I can clear occupancy. 14 days? That's more than the beam may give you. Dana stapled a bright orange paper beside the faded red notice. Mara listened to the city vehicle drive away, then called Cal. He answered on the second ring. What happened? You know what happened. I don't. The city came. Silence. You reported me. I called to ask what the liability was. You gave them my address. They knew the address, Mara. You sent someone here. I told you the porch was bad. So you report it, then offer to take the house? I did not make the offer. The buyers did. Through Denny. Yes, through you. Cal exhaled. The city could have condemned it whether I called or not. They didn't condemn it. What did they say? She told him. 14 days, he said. You can't rebuild that porch in 14 days. It needs one support. It needs all of it. I have people. You have Ruth's former tenants playing reunion. They're helping until somebody gets hurt. Mara hung up. Eli arrived at noon and read the orange notice twice. He called them, Mara said. Probably. You don't sound angry. I'm angry at the beam. She pointed upward. Can we fix it? Eli pressed one thumb into the wood where the porch post met the horizontal beam. The tip disappeared into rot. We can replace the support and sister the beam, he said. But not today. Why? Need 2 adjustable jacks and another pair of hands. I have hands, another pair that understands what's above them. I understand there's a porch roof, which weighs more than your Honda. So, we wait? We get what we need. 14 days. Is longer than tomorrow. He wants me to sell. That's unrelated to whether we rush a load-bearing repair. Everything's related. Eli looked at her closely. Did you sleep? 3 hours. Then you're holding tools with me today. I can work. You can carry lumber and hate Cal. No ladder. They removed the loose railing and stacked damaged boards in the yard. Eli showed her where the beam had separated, drawing a chalk line along the soundest wood. Mara measured for the temporary support while he called Marcus. Marcus could come the next afternoon with a jack. That should have ended the work. Instead, Mara saw the porch roof shift. It happened when Eli pried away a decorative trim board. The post beneath the northeast corner leaned outward less than an inch, then stopped. Eli froze. Back up, he said. Mara stepped into the yard. He eased the pry bar free. The post remained angled. We brace it now, she said. No, We stay off the porch. We can put one of the roof braces under the beam. Those are cut for upstairs. We have scrap. Not enough. There's a new 4x4 beside the basement door. That's for the sill repair. It's wood. It's too short unless we raise it on blocking. So use blocking? Eli studied the post, then looked at her. This is exactly when people make expensive mistakes, he said. And leaving it like that is safe? No. Then what? We close the porch, go by the right length, and come back with Marcus. The store is 40 minutes away. The porch has been bad for years. It just moved. Mara heard herself and knew she sounded frantic. She also saw the orange notice beside the door, Cal's offer ticking down, and $32,000 waiting for her to fail. Eli saw those things too. He should have refused. Instead, he said, "We brace it from the ground. Nobody goes beneath the beam." They cut the shorter post and built a wide base from stacked lumber in the yard. Eli positioned an old bottle jack on top. "Slow," he told her. "One pump at a time." Mara worked the handle. The jack rose, pressing the post against the underside of the porch beam. "Stop." She stopped. Eli crouched several feet away, watching the joint. One more. She pumped. The beam gave a soft wooden pop. Eli stood. "Back it down." "What happened?" "Back it down." Mara turned the release too far. The jack dropped half an inch. The rotten original post kicked sideways. Eli lunged to push Mara clear. The porch beam came down at an angle, striking his shoulder and throwing him against the steps. The temporary brace tipped into the grass. Part of the roof dropped with a cracking roar and stopped against the remaining post. For 1 second, there was no sound. Then Eli tried to sit up. Mara was beside him before she remembered moving. "Don't." "I'm fine. You got hit." I noticed. His face had gone gray. One arm hung strangely against his side. "Can you move your fingers?" "Stop being a television nurse." She took out her phone. "No ambulance," he said. "I'm calling. No ambulance. Nora can drive. You could have broken your neck. But then I wouldn't be arguing." Mara called anyway. The emergency room doctor diagnosed a fractured collarbone, 3 cracked ribs, and a cut behind Eli's ear that needed 5 stitches. He was lucky, which everyone said so often that the word stopped sounding lucky. Nora arrived while he was in imaging. Marcus came still wearing his work shirt and paced the waiting room without sitting. Tasha brought a phone charger and 2 bottles of water because she understood emergencies better than the rest of them. Cal arrived last. Mara stood when she saw him. "Who called you?" "Denise." "She knows?" Nora called her. Nora did not apologize. Cal looked at the blood on Mara's shirt. It belonged to Eli. A small dark crescent had dried near her collar. "What happened?" he asked. "We were bracing the porch. You did it today?" "The post moved. You were supposed to wait." "How do you know what we were supposed to do?" "Because anybody with sense waits for the right equipment." Marcus stopped pacing. "Not now, Cal." "No, now is exactly when somebody needs to say it." Mara crossed the distance between them. "You reported the house." "Yes." The direct answer stopped her. "You said you called about liability." "I reported it because you were living there, and nobody else would. I thought a notice might make you slow down. It made me hurry." Cal's face changed. The admission sat between them, awful and complete. He lowered his voice. "That doesn't make the notice wrong." "No, it doesn't make what I did right either." Mara sank into a plastic chair. Cal sat 2 seats away, leaving one empty between them. When Eli was discharged, his arm rested in a sling, and each breath seemed carefully negotiated. Mara followed him outside. "I'm sorry," she said. "Don't. It was my idea. It was my decision. You told me to wait, and then I didn't. Because I pushed." Eli stopped beneath the hospital awning. "This is a house, Mara. Wood and nails. It is not worth dying in, and it is not worth making your whole life smaller so it can stay big." Rain had begun, fine enough to float beneath the lights. "What if I sell?" she asked. "Then you sell." "What about Ruth?" "Ruth is dead. She does not get a vote." "What about everybody who lived there?" "We already left once." She looked at the sling, the white dressing behind his ear. "I thought fixing it meant something." "It does, but..." "Meaning something doesn't make it possible." Nora drove Eli home. Marcus followed to make sure he could manage the stairs above the laundromat. Cal remained beneath the awning with Mara. "The buyer's attorney sent papers," he said. They'll pay 32 as is, no inspection contingency. She was too tired to be angry that he had brought the offer to a hospital. When? I have them in the Buick. Of course you do. Nothing has to happen tonight. Mara looked at the blood on her shirt. Yes, she said. It does. She read the papers in the passenger seat of Ruth's Buick. Cal explained each paragraph without rushing her. He did not put a pen in her hand. At the signature line, she stopped. If I sign, how soon? Closing could be 10 days. Can I clear the house? Yes. Can I pay Eli back first? For what? Everything. Cal leaned back. It's your money. Mara took the contract with her instead of signing it. At Willow Street, yellow caution tape stretched across the damaged porch. Marcus had put it there before going to the hospital. The northeast corner sagged visibly now. Mara entered through the side door and turned on the kitchen light. The contract lay on the counter beside Ruth's notebooks, the tax receipt, and the row of weekly envelopes. For an hour, Mara stared at all four. Then she wrote Eli's hospital expenses at the top of her list, crossed out when you're rich, and moved every remaining repair beneath it. She called Cal at 2 a.m. I'll sign tomorrow, she said. Cal arrived at 8:30 with 2 pens. Mara had not slept. She had showered, changed into clean jeans, and stacked the contract pages in order on the kitchen counter. The returned birthday card sat upstairs in Ruth's room. She did not want them watching. Cal put 1 pen beside the signature line and kept the other in his shirt pocket. You should still read it again, he said. I did. Have you eaten? I'm selling a house, not donating blood. You look worse than when you donated blood. I've never donated blood. Then you look worse than you would. He opened the refrigerator, found Nora's sparkling cider and the half jar of mustard, then closed it. Do you want breakfast? No, that wasn't a trick. Mara sat at the counter. Cal remained standing. The contract was clean and simple. The buyers wanted the land and whatever stood on it. They would take the house as is, clear the remaining taxes at closing, and give Mara the balance. 10 days later, she could put the Honda in a repair shop without wondering which meal the alternator would cost. She uncapped the pen. A truck door slammed outside. Marcus came through the side entrance carrying the canvas tool pouch Eli had left behind. He stopped when he saw Cal and the papers. What's this? He asked. None of your business, Cal said. Marcus set the pouch on the counter. Then why do I understand it? I'm signing, Mara said. Marcus looked at her. Not the contract. Because you want to? Because Eli got hurt. Those are different sentences. The hospital bill is being handled by who? Eli has insurance. That doesn't pay everything. No. He also has savings, pride, and a powerful dislike of teenage women assigning themselves as debts. I'm 18. Then adult women. Cal picked up the contract. She has made a decision. Marcus took off his glasses. You were in that hospital. Did Eli ask her to sell? He told her the house wasn't worth dying for. True. Did he ask her to sell? Cal did not answer. Mara gripped the pen. He shouldn't have to ask. No, Marcus said. You should have to decide. I did. You called Cal at 2 a.m. How do you know? Cal called Nora. Nora called Tasha. Tasha called me. Your family and Ruth's former tenants share one terrible quality. What? Nobody can keep quiet. Cal's mouth tightened. I called Nora because she was at the hospital. I wanted to know how Eli was doing. Marcus put his glasses back on. See? Complicated. Mara stared at the signature line. She wanted the choice to become obvious. Sell. And she was abandoning the first place that had chosen her. Keep it. And she was becoming Ruth, too stubborn to admit when a building cost more than she could give. Marcus picked up his tool pouch. I came for this, he said, not to stop you. But don't sell the house to pay an apology Eli didn't request. He left. Cal waited. Mara capped the pen. I need the rest of today. You said this morning, I know. The buyers have expenses too. They can survive until tonight. Cal gathered the pages. Do you want me to stay? No. This time the answer came cleanly. After he left, Mara drove to Platt's laundromat. Eli lived above it in a 1-bedroom apartment reached by an outdoor metal staircase. The windows shook whenever the industrial dryers entered their final spin. A line of clean work shirts hung across the living room, because Eli did not own an iron and apparently did not believe in closets. He opened the door wearing the sling, and an expression that suggested pain had ruined his morning before Mara arrived. "No tire iron?" he asked. "It's in the car." Reckless. She held up a paper bag. "Sandwich. I already ate. Then it can live in your refrigerator." His refrigerator contained ketchup, pickles, 3 bottles of root beer, and a foil-covered plate Nora had labeled, "Eat this first." Mara placed the sandwich beside it. "You look terrible," she said. "Thank you. Everybody says that when they're worried. Everybody lacks imagination." He sat carefully in a recliner. Mara took the wooden chair beside the window. "I was going to sign," she said. "I heard." "Of course you did," Nora called. Then Tasha called to make sure Nora had called. "I didn't. That was considerate." Mara looked around the apartment. A framed photograph on the wall showed a younger Eli, beside a woman with curly dark hair. Both held fishing poles. Another frame sat face down on a bookcase. "You have insurance?" she asked. "Some. I'll pay the rest." "No. You got hurt helping me. I got hurt making a bad decision. Because I pushed you. I am 58 years old. If an 18-year-old can make me crawl under a rotten porch beam, I have larger problems. I'm not asking permission to pay. You need the money. So do you. I need 6 weeks without sneezing." He shifted and winced. Mara looked at the face-down frame. "Why did you live with Ruth?" Eli followed her gaze. "My wife left. The woman in the picture?" "Anne, what happened?" "I drank." She waited. "I kept drinking." She stopped waiting. He said it without decoration. "Ruth let you move in?" "Ruth made me sleep on the parlor sofa for 9 days because she didn't believe I was sober. Then she rented me the back room and searched it whenever she felt like it. You stayed 7 years, off and on." "Why?" "I needed somewhere that expected me home." The dryers below shifted into a low rumble. A glass on the windowsill trembled. "Did she help you stop drinking?" "No." "I stopped drinking. She made being stopped harder to lie about." Mara folded her hands. "I don't know how to keep the house without becoming her." Eli leaned back and closed his eyes. "Then don't." Very helpful. Ruth made herself the beam under everything. Rent, repairs, groceries, people's bad decisions. Then she got angry when nobody carried what she never put down. "What am I supposed to do?" "Ask. I've asked." "No. You wait until somebody guesses, then fight them over the price. That is asking with quality control." He opened one eye. "Ask people for one thing. Let them say no. Don't turn help into a lifetime contract. What if it still isn't enough? Then sell because it isn't enough. Not because I bruised badly, fractured, technicality." Mara stood. At the door she noticed a hardware store receipt pinned to a corkboard. Beneath it, written in Ruth's square hand, were the words, "Eli, paid in full." "Ruth wrote that?" "She got tired of me claiming I owed her." "Did you?" "Probably." "Do I owe you?" "Yes." Mara waited. "Listen the first time," he said. She drove back to Willow Street and took the flattened grocery bag lists off the counter. On the blank side of each one, she wrote a name and one request. She called Denny first. "I need the porch stabilized correctly," she said. "Not free. I have $400, people who can do labor, and 14 days. Denny was quiet. "You're Cal's niece." Mara. 400 won't rebuild it." "I didn't ask for a rebuild. I need safe access and a written roof assessment. I'm not putting my license on somebody else's work, then supervise it." He sighed. "I can come this afternoon." "Looking isn't promising." "That line's taken." Marcus agreed to bring 2 adjustable jacks and close the electrical permit. Tasha agreed to keep a written schedule and stop people from inventing jobs. Nora agreed to call former tenants, but only those she would trust with tools or food. Frank agreed to haul debris in his pickup if nobody told his wife how much rusty metal was involved. Janine agreed to trade Mara 2 night shifts for 2 weekends. "What do I do at a boarded house?" she asked. "Scrape paint. I hate scraping paint." "You asked me to take shifts. I regret having values." Mara called Denise last. "I need help," she said. The silence on the line was so complete, she checked the screen. "With what?" Denise asked. "Not money. I didn't think. I need someone to sort Ruth's papers. Keep tax receipts and house expenses separate from personal things. Don't throw anything away." Denise took longer to answer than everyone else. "You trust me with that?" "No," Mara said. I'm trying to. Denise arrived carrying file folders, a stapler, and a pair of old sneakers Mara had never seen her wear. Denny inspected the damaged porch and swore more elegantly than Eli. He rejected half the reclaimed lumber, approved the new 4x4 intended for the basement sill, and made Marcus drive back for a longer one anyway. They worked from the yard with both jacks on level concrete pads. Denny controlled the lift. Mara measured. Marcus secured the temporary posts. Nobody stood beneath the beam. When the porch roof rose the first inch, everyone went quiet. "Don't admire it," Denny said. "Bolt it." They replaced the rotten support and sistered the damaged beam with new lumber. Denny charged Mara $350 and wrote that the roof's braced north section was stable for limited occupancy pending permanent repair. It was not permission to ignore the roof. It was time. The former tenants Nora called did not arrive carrying checks. One brought a circular saw, another brought folding tables. A woman named Lena Price dropped off heavy curtains and stayed long enough to paint a window frame. Tasha organized food and wrote every expense on the pantry envelopes. Marcus finished the 2 safe circuits. Frank hauled 2 loads to the dump and complained about the native habitat the entire way. Cal came on the 3rd afternoon. He stood beyond the caution tape, watching Mara and Janine scrape old paint from the sound sections of porch railing. Denise sat at a folding table in the kitchen, sorting Ruth's papers into labeled folders. "You called Mom?" he asked Mara. "She called you Mom?" Cal almost smiled. "Denise, I asked her to help. And the contract? In the kitchen. Unsigned? Yes. The offer expires tomorrow. I know." He looked at the new support. "Denny did that?" Denny supervised. "With what money?" "Mine. You paid the taxes?" "Part of them. You still can't afford the roof." "No." "Then what are you doing?" Mara set down the scraper. "I'm finding out whether the house can work without one person destroying herself to hold it up." Cal glanced through the window at Denise. She wore Ruth's old canvas apron over her blouse and had dust across one cheek. "And if it can't, I'll sell. You expect me to wait while you experiment?" "The offer is mine." He looked at her for a long moment. Then he stepped over the caution tape. "This railing piece is rotten," he said. "Denny said that section could be cut out. You'll split the lower rail if you pry from there." Mara held out the scraper. Cal stared at it, then took it. They worked on opposite sides of the same railing without speaking. Inside, Denise opened one of Ruth's composition notebooks. A loose page slid out and landed by her shoe. She picked it up, read 2 lines, and went still. "Mara," she called. The page contained no instructions, money, or answer, only an entry written near the end of Ruth's life. "Martin says Mara can refuse the house." Good. She should refuse anything she does not choose. I hope she chooses something better than I did. Below it, Ruth had added one final sentence. "I should have gone to her myself." Mara read the line once. Then she folded the page along its old crease and returned it to the notebook. Outside, the new porch post stood straight beneath the weight. The contract expired at 5 the next afternoon. Mara called Cal before he could call her. "Tell them no," she said. Cal did not answer immediately. Through the window, Mara watched him stand beside the Buick with the phone pressed to his ear. He looked toward the repaired porch, then toward the upper story, where patched tarp still showed beneath the eaves. "You understand there may not be another offer," he said. "Yes." "You still owe taxes." "Yes." "The roof is not fixed." "I know. You don't know what the next year will cost." "No." That answer seemed to bother him most. Cal rubbed his forehead. "Then why?" "Because I'm not choosing the house instead of a life. I'm choosing to find out if they can be the same thing." "That sounds like Ruth." "No. Ruth would have said she didn't need anybody." Through the open kitchen window, Mara could hear Denise stapling papers. Janine scraped paint from the railing in short, violent strokes. Marcus argued with Tasha about whether extension cords belonged under electrical or general supplies. Cal looked at all of them. "I'll tell the buyers," he said. He ended the call without wishing her luck. The offer expired at 5. At 5:02, the roof still sagged, the tax balance still existed, and Mara owned a Honda that started according to its mood. Nothing miraculous happened. The following morning, Denny handed her a permanent roof estimate for $7,100. He had reduced the labor because Mara could do demolition and groundwork under his supervision, then added the savings back as a separate line so she would know exactly what her labor was worth. "You can patch through fall," he said. "Not winter. I don't have 7,000, I know." Why write the estimate? Because not knowing the number doesn't make it smaller. He folded his arms. "My helper quit yesterday." Mara waited. He backed my truck into a customer's garage, then said the garage was too close. "I don't know roofing. You know how to arrive. I can teach roofing." "What does it pay?" 17 an hour to start. I work nights, then sleep quickly. She looked at him. "That was a joke," Denny said. "You're not useful exhausted. Pick 3 days." Mara accepted 2. For 6 weeks she worked construction Tuesdays and Thursdays, stocked groceries 3 nights, and repaired the house on weekends. Tasha caught her trying to add a 3rd day with Denny and removed the schedule from the pantry wall. "You asked me to organize," she said. "I asked you to organize the house. You are currently a failing house system." Mara took Sunday off. The first time Denise returned, she wore jeans, a gray t-shirt, and the old sneakers. She brought no folders and offered no advice. "What needs doing?" she asked. Mara pointed to the kitchen floor. Beneath layers of dirt and yellowed wax, black adhesive showed around the edges where an older floor had been removed. "That," she said. Denise knelt with a scraper. They worked for 40 minutes before speaking. "Ruth hated this linoleum," Denise said. "Why didn't she replace it? She hated spending money more." "That doesn't sound like someone who kept fixing a roof. She could hate 2 things at once." Mara scraped another dark strip from the floor. "I'm still angry. I know. I don't want you coming here because you think work erases things." Denise sat back on her heels. Sweat had loosened her hair around her face. "It doesn't," she said. "I came because I didn't know what else you would let me do." Mara looked at the small, cleared patch between them. "Come next Saturday," she said. "We won't be done." They were not. Denise arrived the next Saturday and the one after that. Sometimes they spoke about Ruth. Sometimes they argued about cleaning products. Once Denise suggested a pale gray paint for the kitchen, and Mara told her no house had ever improved by becoming the color of an office cubicle. Denise laughed hard enough to sit on the floor. Forgiveness did not enter with her. It gathered slowly in the room, unannounced, alongside dust and scraped adhesive. Dana Foster returned after Marcus's electrical inspection closed, and Denny certified the porch support. She tested the smoke detectors, opened the back bedroom window, and frowned at the narrow side exit. "You need to keep this path clear," she said. "I cut the weeds. You stacked lumber in it." Mara moved the lumber. Dana removed the orange notice but left the original maintenance order until the remaining boards and exterior hazards were addressed. "Limited occupancy," she said. 1 bedroom. No tenants until the roof work is complete and the 2nd floor inspection passes. Mara read the paper twice. "Can I sleep here?" Dana sighed. "That is what limited occupancy means." Mara slept 12 hours that night. The permanent roof took until October. Denny's crew replaced the rotten north decking, while Mara stripped shingles, hauled debris, and learned to mark rafter locations without driving nails through empty air. Every week, part of her construction pay went back into materials. She sold the parlor sofa, 2 dressers, the blue china, and a collection of ceramic birds that Lydia had rejected. She refused to sell Ruth's tools. Cal offered $400 for the long oak dining table. "You don't have room for it," Mara said. "I know." "Then why?" He ran one hand over the sheet covering it. "I ate Sunday dinners there." Mara helped him carry it out after Eli declared the dining room floor safe enough. Cal paid the full $400 and did not call it charity. When the downstairs toilet backed up in November, Denise called him before Mara could stop her. Cal arrived with an auger and the same expression he had worn at the will reading. "I didn't ask," Mara said. "I know. I can call a plumber. I know that too." He fixed it in 20 minutes. "How much?" she asked. "Nothing." "No." "Mara, nothing turns into resentment with this house." Cal wiped his hands on a rag. "Then feed me." She heated Nora's leftover stew. Cal ate 2 bowls at the kitchen counter and complained that Ruth had never used enough salt. By December, the tax balance was gone. The roof debt was not, but it had become a column of payments rather than an approaching disaster. Janine moved into the blue room after the 2nd floor inspection passed. Ruth's dresses had been donated, the chenille bedspread washed, and the old door rehung with clean hinges. Mara charged $125 a week, including utilities. It was less than a studio apartment and more than Ruth's old rent, because pretending costs had not changed would help no one. Janine held the first envelope over the kitchen counter. This feels illegal. It's a receipt system. It's cash in an envelope. Tasha printed her a receipt. Inside the pantry door, Mara wrote, Janine, 125, paid. Below it, she added, car use is not rent. Janine read the second line and smiled. Can we put that on a sign at my sister's? The first month was awkward. Janine left the mugs in the back bedroom. Mara asked where she was going whenever she heard the side door after midnight. You are not Ruth, Janine told her one morning. I'm checking the lock. You're checking me. Mara stopped. That afternoon, she and Tasha rewrote the house rules. Quiet hours, weekly rent, shared cleaning, no borrowing cars, money, or tools without asking, guests responsible for damage, no explanations required for leaving or returning. Mara put the rules on the refrigerator and followed them herself. Eli returned to work slowly. His collarbone healed before his ribs stopped hurting, and Mara refused to let him onto a ladder until he produced a note from his doctor. He called the rule insulting, then taped the note to her forehead. He no longer carried the heavy work alone. He taught Mara to hang a door square and let her correct him when he reached automatically for a load too large for one arm. Denny offered her a formal apprenticeship in spring. You're slow, he said. I'm careful. You're also argumentative. You taught me. That is why I'm fixing it early. She accepted, dropped 2 grocery store shifts, and kept one overnight because Sandoval claimed leaving completely would damage cereal quality. The house opened one room at a time. The front room went to a woman named Rochelle, who worked at a medical billing office and needed somewhere she could pay weekly after leaving a relationship quickly. The green room went to Paul, a restaurant manager rebuilding his savings after caring for an ill parent. The former sewing room became a shared office instead of a 6th bedroom because Mara refused to repeat Ruth's habit of calling any space with a door rentable. Tasha converted the pantry envelopes into a ledger with receipts, expenses, emergency reserves, and weekly payment plans. If someone could not pay, the conversation happened before the silence grew. Nobody earned food or safety by performing gratitude. The rent did not make Mara rich. It paid the water bill, Marcus's final labor balance, and the next section of roof. On good months, it bought insulation. On bad months, everyone wore sweaters. 1 year after Ruth's death, Nora organized a memorial dinner without requesting permission. Memorials are normally closer to the death, Mara said. We were busy then. The oak table returned in Cal's pickup because his dining room truly had no space for it. He and Marcus carried it across the repaired floor while insulting each other's grip. 4 bedrooms were warm and occupied. The porch columns did not match. Primer covered half the upstairs hallway. A jar labeled roof remained beside the refrigerator because Denny had warned Mara that roofs were never finished, only between demands. Denise served chicken from Ruth's old platter. Eli repaired a stubborn drawer with his feet stretched beneath the table. Tasha collected stories about the house and corrected anyone who made Ruth sound gentle. Cal arrived late carrying a bag of salt. What's that? Mara asked. Insurance. For what? Nora's gravy. Nora threatened to charge him $85. After dinner, Mara took Ruth's composition notebook from the pantry. She did not read the apology aloud. Ruth's failures did not need to become entertainment, and neither did her love. Instead, Mara passed around the photograph of herself wearing number 7. Each person told one true story about Ruth. Some were kind, some were not. Together they sounded like a woman rather than a saint. Rochelle moved into the blue room that evening, and Janine transferred to the larger front bedroom. Mara remained in the small back room with yellow flowers, the blue marble still on the sill. After everyone left, she returned to the kitchen. One section of plywood remained over the narrow window beside the pantry. It had been left because shelves blocked the inside, and other repairs always mattered more. Mara wedged Ruth's old pry bar beneath the edge. The first nail resisted. The second broke free. At the third, the board tipped outward into Eli's waiting hands. You planned this? She asked. I saw the pry bar. They lowered the plywood to the porch. Morning light entered the kitchen from 2 directions. It crossed the scarred table, the labeled envelopes, the clean coffee mug, and the stretch of floor where Mara and Denise had scraped away the old black adhesive. Mara opened the window. Outside, the hydrangeas were blooming blue again. Behind her, 4 bedroom doors stood closed because 4 adults had chosen to sleep there. Pipes moved water through the walls. The refrigerator hummed. A roof Mara had helped build held sunlight instead of rain. The house had not rescued her. It had needed her to stay long enough to learn the difference between being necessary and belonging. Eli carried the final board toward the scrap pile. Mara leaned on the open sill, felt the warm air move through the kitchen, and let the house see outside.